fascism can be. Interesting. Interesting that they went there. What were they doing there? I do not know. Okay. Like, this guy is a fucking Nazi himself, basically. Okay. I mean, he is like straight up a white nationalist. And this guy, sure, not anti Semitic, but definitely, unless you're talking about bad Jews, he always does that. But also, you know, hires fascists, is like responsible for a metric ton of like fascist rhetoric. But hey, guys, it's cool. They're pro-Israel, and also, you know, they're at the Auschwitz concentration camp. So, you know, don't worry. Let's completely overlook like the things that they say and do on a daily basis. Now, this person said place of alleged genocide, and I assume they're not actually, as a 38-month subscriber, doing Holocaust revisionism, but I think they're referencing the Stop Anti-Zionism tweet. But you can't get spicy with that. Yes, I know that's what you're trying to say, but you can't be saying shit like that because I don't know what the context is, chatter. Or, I mean, I do in this circumstance, but other people don't know. So be careful with what you say. You might get clapped. Now, now let me tell you. The person is referencing this this tweet, okay? I posted about it earlier this morning. There's an account called Stop Zionist Hate, okay? It was created basically as the opposite of like what was it, Stop Anti-Semitic Hate or whatever, like the other account that is run by like a psycho. I didn't pay too much attention to this, but a lot of people who are more knowledgeable on the issue were saying that they thought it was strange that they were they thought it was strange that they weren't following any Palestinians initially. They were only following like Jackson Hinkle and all these other people, right? And I saw this tweet this morning and I was like, get the fuck out of here. All right. Stop Zionist Hate post Elon Musk and Ben Shapiro in Auschwitz, a town that allegedly witnessed genocide in the 20th century. Allegedly? Fuck you mean allegedly? That's it. That's all it takes for me. I see that. And I'm like, nope. Nope. I know what's going on. Yeah, hold on 1 second. 1 second, everybody. That's right. My Geiger counter. My Geiger counter's going off. Uh-oh. Hitler particle emission confirmed. Okay, that's it. It's radioactive. I see that. I'm like, nope. That's like, that's a lot of Röntgens, man. That's not like, you know, not good, not bad. Okay, that's too many Röntgens. Okay, I don't know how many Röntgen it is, but it's too many. I'm playing Stalker and you just fuck me up with that? Yeah, audio perverts, you are now dead. Anyway, look. All I'm saying is this is ridiculous. Okay? Bro said, allegedly to the Holocaust, there is no faster way to prove you care more about hating Jews instead of protecting Palestinians than doing shit like this. Also, fuck Ben Shapiro and Elon. Their contribution to modern fascism is notable. So, you know, that's crazy. Like, I will probably never look at this account the same ever again. Okay? I hadn't paid close attention to it at all a lot of people had personally said that what they were interested in is like just, you know, clout or whatever. And the issue is like this space is just occupied by a lot of motherfuckers who are so grifty. Okay? Like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It just sucks that like so many people that pop off in like the supposedly like pro-Palestinian space, like there's a lot of motherfuckers out there who are just trying to get the bag. And I don't know how to deal with it, cuz it's like on the one hand, like it's weird because the people are if they're posting like normal things, right? If they're posting normal things that are specifically related to Israel, okay, and they're only talking about like I don't know what Israel's doing in Gaza. If they're like accurately depicting information, that's one thing, right? But if they're openly anti-Semitic and they're also like constantly the only accounts that you see that's posting about Israel is like a psyop, okay? It's a psyop. Like, what are we doing? It's like a perfect demonstration that, you know, a lot of Zionists like to fucking point to, right? To say, look, these guys don't care about Israel. They only care about Israel because it's Jews and they're anti-Semitic. And to me, I feel like it's disgusting. It's gross to be anti-Semitic to begin with. But then beyond that, it's like, it's both gross on its own because you're a fucking bigot, okay? And then also you're doubly gross because you're undermining the values that you supposedly espouse by, you know, working extra hard to specifically use an active genocide to fucking talk about a secondary agenda of hating Jews. Like, what the fuck? You know? This shit sucks. Like, you can't say allegedly to the Holocaust and then simultaneously, you can't say allegedly to the Holocaust and then simultaneously fucking turn around and be like, but here's the real genocide in Gaza. People now automatically, normal people are going to look at you and go, oh, you're a fucking clown. Like, you don't give a shit. And it's really fucked up. Anyway. Roman statues PFP accounts that a year ago were openly posting about the demise of the white race and after October 7 became the most anti-Zionist out there. Yeah. It's crazy. Here's their apology tweet, apparently. Our point in using the word allegedly was to show the double standards when it comes to discussing atrocities. We don't deny the atrocities of World War II. Zionists and the mainstream media use the word allegedly when reporting on Palestinians being murdered, yet they don't get labeled as anti-Palestinian atrocity deniers. Dude, what the fuck? This is not even a good ass. No, dude, that's crazy. Hey, I was just pretending to be a Nazi is so stupid to show the double standard of like how the media are being Nazis. Oh, come on. Come on. Crimes of World War II, not the Holocaust. Like openly state that the Holocaust happened. Okay? It did. You're fucking insane. Listen. Here's how it works. Okay? Here's how it works. There's a very simple telltale sign. There is no easier way to fucking identify that you are dealing with potentially a fascist other than, especially if we're talking about the Western world, right? Like, especially the easiest way to, you know, log somebody or clock somebody for Hitler particles is when they just like start questioning the Holocaust. It's like so profoundly well documented. Okay. It's one of those things where it's like you're climbing a mountain, brother, to get there. And that mountain that is a hurdle that you must overcome. And that hurdle, you're not climbing that mountain without a shit ton of intensity and real belief that it must not have happened. Okay. Incredibly well documented. There are entire fields dedicated to covering it extensively. Like, it's crazy. It's a matter of historic record. Okay. We're not talking like the atrocities that Genghis Khan dealt with. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane. It's not that far. It's not that far off in our history. It's like it happened relatively, it happened relatively recently. You know what I mean? Nazis are split up into two camps. Some hate Muslims more, so they use Israel as the excuse, and the other ones are the OG Nazis pretending to be down for the Palestinian cause. Is crazy. Yeah, I've noticed that too. Yeah, it's like, dude. Denying the Holocaust is like denying that the fucking water is wet. It is so, like, you can physically see the remnants of it. It's a matter of historic record. It is profoundly well documented. It's just a wild thing. It's just a wild thing to do in general. Okay? So, that's crazy. Water literally isn't wet. Okay, shut up. Okay, I should have used a different example. Oh my God. Water makes you wet. Oh my God. I meant if you jump in the water, you will get wet. Okay? Is that better? You guys are the worst. This is my nightmare. Okay? My worst enemies are in here and I'm stuck with them. Okay? Typical Hasan spreading misinformation. Oh, got me again. I'm doing the damn thing. So yeah. Do you think Kanye is humiliating his wife the way he parades her around pretty much naked in public? I low-key do think that. It is a suspicion that I have. I don't want to like go super hard on it, but I do think that he found a clone of his ex-wife and is like ritualistically humiliating her as a substitute for humiliating his ex-wife. It feels like it. I don't think he's like forcing her. It's just very weird. It's very weird. It just smells weird to me. That's it. It smells weird to me. You know what I mean? But I don't want to like get too far into it. I don't know why we're talking about Kanye West. Anyway, whatever. It's just this initiation for her to join the Illuminati. Yeah. She's a lawyer. She definitely has a contract for his humiliation to get the bag. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I think like as I was saying, this kind of stuff is completely unacceptable. It's so funny though, because like the quote tweets of this are either like the quote tweets on this tweet have been like, wow, they even lost Hasan. Like as though I have any as though I'm like an anti-Semite. You know what I mean? Like I'm an anti-Semite myself, but this is too much for me. Like that's the attitude that I've seen from like so many accounts with the Israeli flag. And it's wild. I did not even know that they knew I existed. I did not realize that I was like openly an enemy of dudes with the Israeli flag in their bio accounts. Okay. It is pretty funny to think that like I'm an anti-Semitic person, but also simultaneously, even this is like too much anti-Semitism for me. You know what I mean? But this was pretty funny. Disregarding the Holocaust and genocides is what your Turkish brand built on, dog. And it's just a dude stepping on cockroaches. It's like, bro, it's so funny. Like this dude is defending Israel, okay? But then also simultaneously yelling at me about like potential anti-Semitism that he thinks I'm doing while simultaneously calling me a fucking roach. uh anyway, there was people like that, and then there were people straight up just being anti-Semitic as well. Okay. Like dudes being like, oh, mathematically, it doesn't make sense how many Jews Hitler killed. Like classic, like Holocaust revisionism nonsense. it's just Hitler particles everywhere, dude. It is, whoo, sheesh. Hitler particles left and right. Why is you being Turkish mentioned all the time nowadays? It wasn't the case before. It's like they discovered it last week and there's an automatic L for them. My friend, I think you know why they keep talking about how Turkish I am. I mean, come on. Like, me being Turkish has absolutely nothing to do with my commentary. Unless I'm, I guess, talking about Turkey, so I have, like, personal experiences in the matter. But, like, I guess it shapes my worldview a little bit, but like overall, it's just something you say if you can't actually like address the points. But because it's so normalized, like that kind of commentary is so profoundly normalized in the space online, especially because it's like tangentially, you know, Islamophobic. So like that is the most normalized kind of hatred, right? It kind of goes unnoticed. Like people see that as like a valid retort. Like people will go, "Oh yeah, he called him out. He's right. He is a Turkish Muslim fundamentalist Islamist who loves like Muslim terror. Muslim terror is what he loves. He loves Islamic terror and Islamic dictatorships clearly because he is from one. Because he's a defender of an Islamic mullah backed those YouTube commentary chuds are out of context. What do you mean? Anyway, let's talk about two fascists going to Auschwitz.
Birkenau was divided into smaller sectors, so I mentioned the story of a...
Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
This is like, by the way, I gotta mention something. There is nothing grosser. I'll put, dude, I will put my entire chest on this, okay? Look, I'm not Jewish, as you guys know, okay? I am Muslim. I'm a Turkish guy, culturally Muslim, not exactly someone who practices Islam. But having said that, okay, as a person who despises fascism and wants to eradicate it, okay, there is nothing grosser to me, at least, and I suspect my friends from every different background will agree with this, that are also anti-fascist. There's nothing grosser than having two dudes, okay, who are unbelievably in support of virtually every kind of fascist movement, okay, going to a fucking concentration camp to do a media op to be like, look at us, guys. Like, you should not be anywhere near the Holocaust, concentration camps. Like, you should not be able to use that as a way to do positive PR for yourself. It is wild. In my opinion, this act, especially because like the groups that are facilitating this are doing it in a deliberate way to like whitewash the anti-Semitism accusations launched towards X, which is a platform riddled to the fucking brim with Nazis, right? Like the fact that you would be a Jewish organization that facilitated this is insane. Okay. It's crazy. It's crazy. What are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing? You are just weaponizing the memory of the Holocaust to launder the reputation of a dude whose platform is just filled to the fucking brim with Nazis. Okay? To the goddamn brim. That's nuts. What are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? Anyway, like, to me, I think this is worse than when, like, who was the basketball player who went to the fucking Holocaust memorial and, like, took a selfie? Like, I think going to the Holocaust memorial and taking, like, a fucking sexy selfie is disrespectful. This is more disrespectful. Yeah, it was Danny Green, right? Like, straight up. I think allowing straight fucking fascists to launder their reputation at the concentration camp, okay, after correct accusations that, like, they're both either directly hiring anti-Semitic people or allowing anti-Semitism to thrive. Like, to be able to use the memory of the Holocaust to do PR for this kind of thing is wild to me. Okay? Is wild. And yes, I know Ben is an Orthodox Jew. Okay? I know that. Except Ben has said a shit ton of anti-Semitic things. You know what I mean? Ben has defended anti-Semitism. Ben has defended anti-Semitism for the likes of Ann Coulter, for example, and has openly said, I don't care that she's saying anti-Semitic shit because she's pro-Israel, undeniably. And that's it. That's all I care about. Like, Ben is not hiding his perspective. He does not care if someone is anti-Semitic as long as they're pro-Israel. Okay? It's very odd that people can't see through this. I like how they teamed up for this one. What awful shit do you think the other people in the folding chairs did? I don't know. They're probably just like normal people. It's crazy, man. It's actually crazy. You talking about Shapiro or Glebe? No, I'm talking about Shapiro. Elon is also wearing a kippah. I don't know what the move is there. I don't know what's happening there, but you know. He has also been accused of fueling the anti-Semitic conspiracy theory on X. Bro, this guy literally said, dude, it's so funny. Dude. No, this is so funny. Every time a right-winger says some crazy shit like Jews are doing the great replacement, which is what Elon Musk boosted, right? Remember? Like a couple months ago, he straight up was like, yeah, Jews are doing unlimited immigration in the Western world, and now all those immigrants fucking hate the Jews. Like, guess what? Sucks to suck. I'm like, that's what the Nazis unironically said and kept saying after World War II. Like, you're just directly, it's like Sig Heiling at that point. I know that, like, liberals love hyper focusing on the aesthetics, but like, that's a crazy thing to come back from, to just be like, yeah, that's right, I just went to the Auschwitz, so I'm good now. Like, I went to Israel, I said, go ahead guys, keep pounding Gaza, shit's fire. It's like, what are we doing? What's going on? This is the memory of one of the most significant crimes of the 20th century. Like, mechanized murder, and you're just sitting there and you're using that to just be like, nah, dude, I love Jews actually, even though they do a lot of the unlimited immigration in the Western world, which I hate. Come on, Jews, don't do that. But also, I don't hate you guys. Okay, sick, man. Cool. I guess that's fine. It's like when Marjorie Taylor Greene had to go to a Holocaust memorial and then write a fucking write an essay on why the Holocaust was bad. You know? Like after posting on Facebook that like Jewish space lasers were responsible for California wildfires. That's sick. Did Elon write a book report too?
Ben, please.
Of course, Ben is like helping Elon revise his there is not an anti-Semite that's pro-Israel, by the way, of course, that's the qualifier, that Ben Shapiro will not hug and kiss, okay? As long as you are pro-Israel, Ben will 100% will whitewash you, will try to improve your reputation. There is not a guy who cares less about anti-Semitism than Ben Shapiro, okay? Straight up. And now this is also pretty funny because like all the people that will look to my criticism of this and go, oh yeah, Hasan, remember when you platformed a 19-year-old Yemeni dude who I suspect is doing child slavery, systematic rape, and also specifically hates Jews? No, I didn't watch the interview. I don't care what he had to say. I just made up my mind. So he must be all of those things. And I think you're, what you did was really fucked up. You are so much worse than Elon Musk. It's awesome. Because like, couple things in that circumstance. Okay, couple things in that situation. Some to remember here. Okay, that dude's life experiences are a little bit different, I think, than motherfucking Elon Musk. You feel me? Like, does not excuse anti-Semitism if he is. Okay. But the notion that like that person having anti-Semitic tendencies and like Elon Musk as the, richest billionaire on the planet who commands an entire platform of mass communication, openly allowing Nazis to thrive on the platform. I mean, come on. If you're a Jew in the Western world, think about who's impacting your life in, genuine ways. How is that actually going to destroy your life? Allowing and encouraging Nazis to thrive on Twitter and to gain more prominence, get more clout, grow their movement, or the hypothetical 19-year-old who might actually be anti-Semitic, even though he said personally, when I asked him directly, that he has no issue with anyone as long as they are pro-Palestine. I've never read Twitter, so I was shocked about all the transphobic comments I read in the reply to an Elon Musk tweet. Oh, yeah. Shit's popping out there. Yeah, but they don't believe him, LMFAO. I hate it here. And then the European Jewish Association, the Jewish Voice of Europe, got together and conducted a live stream where Ben Shapiro interviewed Elon Musk.
And dear friend, dear president.
These guys this is ridiculous, dude. It's like, oh, It's so crazy. Now, of course, I'm not gonna watch this whole thing.
It's good to have the memorial, as the plaque says, so that it never happens again.
But it's also like, I mean, like I said, it's gross because it's gross for two reasons. One, this is a way to launder Elon's. It's a way to launder Elon Musk's reputation and whitewash his reputation. It's like doing PR by partnering with a Jewish organization that's like, oh no, please, sir, come through. We'll make it so that nobody thinks you're anti-Semitic. Here's an association with the Holocaust too, and how bad the Holocaust was, and now, which is fucking real and very bad, and we're gonna use that historic atrocity to turn around and launder your reputation. That's number one. That's fucked up. Number two, the notion that this is like a never again, like invoking never again in this circumstance, is also additionally gross because it is happening again. Okay? It's happening again, and Israel has used the never again rhetoric at the International Court of Justice specifically to describe why they should be allowed to do it again, this time to someone else. You do not have like a one free let's do genocide card. Like, it doesn't work that way. Okay? It's crazy. Yeah. These motherfuckers mean never again to Jews, not never again to anyone. That's what's so fucked up about this. They will use a Holocaust and non-Jews in the supposed name of defending Jews from a Holocaust that's not happening. Yeah, I know. It's just like, you can't, your defense for a potential hypothetical future Holocaust, okay, cannot be to do a genocide in reverse to a population that you have occupied for 75 years that, first of all, does not have the power to do that regardless, okay? And definitely doesn't have the tenacity either. Like, thoughts on the millions of Germans protesting fascism right now after the AfD party was exposed for plotting to expel 2 million ethnics to Africa? Bro, Germany is such a weird place. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I know I got some German chatters in here. I feel like Germany is completely insane. I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it feels like neoliberal fascism is at the Germany's at the tip of the spear on neoliberal fascism. I feel like they're writing the agenda, right? Because all things considered, Germany has a massive Muslim migrant population, right? Germany has a massive migrant population after World War II. They needed to, beef up industry, and they brought in Turkish migrant workers. Obviously, Western Germany specifically was not denazified. Like, it was not. It was, as a matter of fact, re-Nazified, specifically by the United States of America and Western powers. Because they had a much larger goal at hand, the goal of the eradication of communism, right? A specter is haunting Europe. We must defeat communism. That's the real evil here. And who are the greatest commie killers? Well, the Nazis that we didn't kill. You know, they got a lot of combat experience. And my point is, I think, like, Germany is very strange on that front because, like, one, they have one of the higher Muslim refugee populations in Europe, okay? They have a higher Muslim population than other countries in Europe as far as, like, the Turkish diaspora that lives in Germany, okay? And what I find really, really, really strange about this is that in spite of all of that, they are But they have a growing momentum of obviously the AfD and parties such as that are openly fascist. But Turks are more secular Muslims? No, not the Turkish Germans. I think German Turks are becoming increasingly more disillusioned and increasingly more segregated on economic boundaries, and it's causing, I feel like, a lot of German Turks to become more and more reactionary, more and more right wing, and it literally turns into, you know what it is? German Turks, for some weird reason, turn into like the the fundamentalist like Muslims in the UK. Not every Muslim is like that, obviously, in the UK, but some of them go so aggro. They're like way more reactionary than like fucking the Muslim populations and their attitudes towards like towards Islam in the respective host nations, right? Like their nations of origin. This is something I've criticized quite a bit. I've talked about this quite a bit as far as like German Turks, like Turks in diaspora and how fucking pro Erdogan they are, for example. It's like really annoying. Something that Turks back home fucking hate, right? They do not like that at all. And I don't know. I just like, it's very odd. Also, no immigrants are voting AfD. No, of course not. Of course not. Of course not. There's like different kinds of movements growing in a lot of these places. I don't think Turks are voting AfD. Right? I'm just specifically talking about, I was specifically talking about like Muslim diaspora populations and how like aggro they get sometimes. And I think it's because I think it stems from like the racism that they experience and the economic hardships that they experience, and the class dynamic that exists there that is racialized, of course, just like in America. The class dynamic is racialized heavily between black and brown populations and the white population. And I feel as though that is part of the reason why people identify with more reactionary attitudes, and they get defensive, they posture defensively. And I'm a firm believer in integration. For all of America's faults and failures, like, they do a relatively decent job. This country's done a relatively decent job in immigration. It can do significantly more, of course, but there is very real integration in the United States of America, especially by the third generation. Instead of creating economic enclaves that also then feed back into that same cycle of just like despising the rest of the population, and the rest of the population despising them, because that's where it's born out of usually. I think that I think that it's just like becoming a dangerous prospect. Having said that, there are no real options. There are no real leftist options. There are no real actual progressive communist socialist alternatives. Okay? Especially in a place like Germany. I mean, you've seen the German anti-fascist movement. They were like breaking down the doors of a bakery for hosting like a talk for Palestinians and dumping like pig fat. That's what their anti-fascists are doing. And I just feel like, I mean, I don't want to make jokes, but I do feel like the some of these German fascists, anti-fascists have one speed. They don't know how to do anti-fascism. Perhaps that's what happens when you wipe out the partisans and all the Jewish socialists and trade unionists in your fucking country during the Holocaust, and then you don't have like a real institutional leftist momentum there, and the dudes that think that they're doing like leftist progressive momentum are just being insanely racist. They don't know what they're doing. They don't got the internet. So, yeah. I think they just get mad, and when you don't have any mechanism of pushback as well as with no logic, materialist analysis, all you can do is become reactionary. Yeah. That's a subsect of German Antifas. I'm just saying it's odd when you got anti-fascists who claim that they're anti-fascists, and then what they're doing is dumping pig fat on a bakery that hosted like a pro-Palestinian talk. That's the most psychotic thing I've ever heard in my entire life. That's like, you're insanely racist. It's also ironic because like pig fat is also not kosher either. It's not like it's anything. It doesn't do anything to the Muslims. Like the idea that like pig fat is going to like somehow make Muslims perish is insanely stupid and racist, but yeah, it's anti-Deutsche, right? Anti-Germans political current. That's the movement. Anti-Deutsch is the generic name applied to a variety of theoretical and political tendencies within the left in mainly Germany and Austria. The anti-Germans form one of the main camps in the broader Antifa movement alongside the anti-Zionist, anti-imperialists after two currents split between the 1990s and the early 2000s as a result of their diverging views on Israel. The anti-Germans are a fringe movement within the German left. In 2006, Deutsche Welle estimated the number of anti-Germans to be between 500 and 3,000. The basic standpoint of the anti-Germans includes opposition to German nationalism, a critique of mainstream left anti-capitalist views, which are thought to be simplistic and structurally anti-Semitic. Wait, what? They think anti-capitalism is anti-Semitic? Okay, these guys are literally, okay. All right, never mind. That's pretty funny. This is like the classic, okay, yeah, that's full circle. That's full circle, baby. No, that's literally anti-Semitic. Saying anti-capitalism is inherently anti-Semitic is an anti-Semitic statement. Why? Because you're automatically saying, oh, you mean bankers? Yeah, that's right. You mean Jews, which is an insane thing to say because it's inherently the exact opposite of what anti-capitalists are saying. I love this, dude. I love these guys. They're fucking awesome. Hey, man, that Geiger counter is coming in handy again. Hold up. Wait a minute. Uh-oh. That Hitler particle's going crazy, dude. Hitler particles detected again. It's pretty funny for Germans to say that anti-capitalism is actually secretly anti-Semitic. Why is that additionally funny? Because, dude, that's like, one, it has the underlying premise that like all Jews are somehow powerful bankers. That's number one. And number two, no, it was the partisan Jews in the KPD that was resisting the Nazi movement. And then you fucking killed them. Like your grandfather literally killed them. What are you saying? It's insane to have your own grandpappy play a role in the execution of communist, socialist, trade unionist, Jews, and non-Jews alike, okay? And then using the same exact arguments that your grandpappy used. But this time, it's like for supposedly in defense of Jewish people. That's cool. Yeah, this was what I was talking about with the pig fat. These guys went in The German pro-Israeli Antifa attacked a bakery run by leftists with migrant background with pig fat for hosting pro-Palestinian leftist organizations. Okay. Someone said to me that first generation migrants are more docile because they're new and don't want to risk anything, but second gen see more as troublemakers, not because they come from migrant families, but because they're acting more like the citizens of that country, but it's a problem because they're seen as migrants. It's actually a really interesting take. Sure. Germans are unironically invoking their Nazi grandfathers to make that argument. German elites have convinced themselves that they get anti-Semitism in a way that Jews simply can't. They seem to have gained enlightenment through genocide. An example, when Der Spiegel did a bizarre takedown of Greta Thunberg, the only climate activist in the entire world they could find who didn't support Palestine was Luisa Neubauer, a leader of Fridays for Future in Germany. Neubauer was ready to accuse the entire climate movement of anti-Semitism. How does she know? Is she particularly close to Jewish culture? Has she been a scholar of anti-Jewish discrimination? No. The only qualification she referred to is that her great-grandfather from the Reemtsma dynasty was an SS member who donated huge sums to the Nazi party. Inheriting a ton of money from Nazis seemingly offers a unique education of liberal humanist values. I've heard this before, that like Germans think that they have a unique experience with the Holocaust because they did it, right? Or because their grandparents did it. And I didn't realize it was actually something that they openly say. Guys, I know a thing or two about the Holocaust because my great grandparents did it directly, right? Like they supported it. So I know it's like, yeah, but you know in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? Like you don't know in the right direction. Here's a great example, okay? Apartheid South Africa, post-apartheid South Africa, they know what it's like to withstand ethnic cleansing campaigns and exist under an apartheid because that's in the right direction. Those are like the victims, right? Those are the victims that took power. Like, and now they're the ones who are launching this investigation. So having the guys that did the Holocaust partner up with Israel to yell at the guys who withstood their own ethnic cleansing campaign to be like, no, you don't understand. We know how to do the Holocaust real good is not exactly the argument that you want to present. Okay? Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's the old joke. My grandpa died in Auschwitz when he fell off the guard tower. Yeah. That's like, it literally, that is literally what they're saying. She's saying that. If you argue with them, they love to say, well, you just don't understand how evil Germans are. No, I understand it. Okay? I understood it historically, and I fucking understand it now. Okay? No, I perfectly understand it. Oh, I understand it. Let me tell you. Like, I've never, like, I like Germany. Okay? I will reluctantly admit this. As a Turkish person, Berlin, Kreuzberg, many parts of Germany have a massive Turkish diaspora. I visited many times, okay? And like, while I'm not super fond of the boxy architecture in East Germany, I do think that they have great doner. You know, this is like, it just makes me really sad to see how intensely these guys have been like pro-Israel in the most racist ways you can be. You said you don't like Germany before, that it's your least favorite place to visit. I think it's boring. I've said that. But overall, I love the food. The donut is really good. And I do feel a sense of closeness due to how large the Turkish diaspora is there. Okay? But it is definitely, yeah, I'm not a fan of brutalist architecture. It definitely is Not great. It's not. They're not doing a great job this year. Hasi, the International Labor Bundism is the perfect leftist counter to irredentist Zionism. Yeah. I think like I think the way I see it, dodging the tanky allegations, I hate brutalist architecture. I think it's kind of boring. And I don't like brutalist architecture. I like the utility of it, and I want everyone to have a house, but I don't like brutalist architecture. That's fine. That's fine. Saying a whole country is boring is kind of stupid. Dude, it's always going to be reductive. Don't lean into it too much. It doesn't mean anything all that significant, okay? In 1962, the Socialist German Democratic Republic mapped every West German ambassador with links to the Nazi Party, revealing a stark political continuity and a clear failure to denazify. What we are seeing now is among the many consequences of the West's victory in the Cold War. Yeah. This is 100% true. Okay? I've talked about this before. Bez D. Marx has done a phenomenal job. I believe they're a German socialist. They've done a phenomenal job of like talking about how they've done a phenomenal job of how the German government re-Nazified instead of actually denazifying after World War II at the behest of NATO and the United States of America specifically. For reasons that I just described to you. It's like part of the reason why they're Swiss. Okay. Is part of the reason why I am not too fond of NATO as well, historically. And the thing is, however, there's a lot of spots. There are a lot of spots where people are voting for AfD in East Germany too, because it's always the same principle. It's economic volatility. Okay. Like, since the reunification and the dissolution of the USSR, AfD has grown in power and in momentum. AfD has grown in power and in momentum in Eastern Germany. Okay? This is true. The point is, it grows in power and momentum because, one, there's no real socialist alternative, both in the East or West. And two, there's a lot of economic instability, especially in the East. Okay? The whole world got Nazified when the U.S. decided to not make illegal Nazi propaganda. And when the USSR and NATO kept all the Nazi engineers, it's not even just the Nazi engineers. Like, it's literally not paperclip. It's not. Paperclip is greatly overstated. I like to joke about it as well. But this is, in my opinion, this is significantly more important. Like, NATO openly, deliberately aligning with anti-communists who were Nazis, right? Because they were the best, most effective, like, anti-communists, is a legacy that still very much exists to this day. It was 1,000%. It was 1,000% something you saw in the American State Department as well. Like, we had a lot of people who were kind of fashy in both the CIA and the FBI, American fascies who just hated communism. And we still do, obviously. But I'm just saying, like, historically speaking, people were, like, once communism was once Chad is shocked to find out that the U.S. had former Nazis in their ranks. I've never heard about this. Yeah, but it's not just Operation Paperclip, right? And the USSR did a version of this as well, but not to the same degree as the United States, 100% for the record. But yeah, Gordon Liddy is a prime example, 100%. But my point is it's something, it's bigger than just Operation Paperclip. It's more so that, like, ideologically, once we decided that communism was the real villain here, right, and socialism was the real villain because it was a threat to capital, like the people that we elevated into positions of power in all of our institutions were fashy as hell, because those are the guys who hate communism the most. That's it. Also, a lot of Nazis just stayed in power in Germany after World War II due to a lack of evidence because, of course, they hid their crimes. Yeah. Little addendum, the AfD is a deeply neoliberal party, and they don't even deny it in their electoral manifesto. They don't differ too much from their OG post-Reich Nazi party, NPD, but their rhetoric is a lot more bourgeoisie than outright fash. Well, because they can't be outright fascist. That's why they also substitute the Nazi sloganeering for Weimar Germany, right? Like, this is the reason why they use the old German flag, for example. They fly it because they are not allowed. It is illegal for them to be openly fascist, openly Nazi. So, yeah, they use the Imperial German flag, I think, right? So this is all of this is just stuff to consider when analyzing why Germany is the way it is and trying to develop a better understanding of why post World War II a lot of people took positions that they took, and how that is still impactful in our culture to this day, because you can draw a direct line from post World War II attitudes in the Western world. The America-led Western world in the aftermath of World War II were defenders of capitalism, global capital, right? And they saw the USSR and its influence as dangerous, very dangerous, a threat to capital, which is understandable because it was a threat to capital. And in that interest, in the continuation of that interest, they went as far as to align with the most rugged anti-communists out there. And those guys were always fascists. And the direct line you can point to between that is the SS Galicia Division Ukrainian veteran who voluntarily joined the Foreign Legion of the Nazis, who ironically considered Ukrainians to be Slav dogs, by the way, just as all of the other Eastern European countries that they invaded and killed a shit ton of people in. Okay. How do you get a guy who was a literal Nazi to get a standing ovation in the Canadian Parliament? Well, that guy was a literal Nazi, a part of the SS Division's foreign squadron, but he came to Canada because he was a anti-communist. That's how he was able to operate. Yeah, sure, he was a Nazi, but he was anti-communist, and we hate communism way more than we hate Nazism. Anyway. He was brought into Ontario to be a strike breaker for the mines. Abi Kanada'da mı Amerika'da mı yaşamak için? Yeah, we'll do the Texas razor wire story in a second. We'll do the Supreme Court story. All right. So why did I talk about all this? Because, fascists in neoliberal America and in the Western world have always made for good bedfellows with the supposed liberals who would never, they hate white supremacy, they hate racism, they hate bigotry of all sorts, but simply just end up, aligning with that kind of thing when push comes to shove. The notion, I can't believe you just said racist shit in Turkish. Like, we didn't talk about this 2 days ago. You would have a lot more fun in Berlin if you were gay, to be honest. Yeah, probably. I mean, look, you might not agree with a lot of Stalin's opinions, behaviors, but if there is a prescient take from him, it is the notion that if you cut a liberal and a fascist bleeds. It's just historically how that has worked. And he was right on that front. Because what is fascism but capitalism in decay? Capitalism in crisis brings about fascism because fascism is seen as a way to at least restore order by force when capitalism is in crisis. All right. We're going to move on from Elon Musk, even though there is some funny. The one last thing that is funny about Elon Musk is this. Here it is. Mr. Beast. So Mr. Beast, Elon Musk has been sucking off Mr. Beast for like a while now, begging him to post on Twitter, now known as X. So Mr. Beast went and posted an older video. And if you are a Twitter user, it is virtually impossible for you not to have seen this video. Because the video was on everyone's timeline a million times over. I counted at least 7 times that I can recall that I saw the video. I never watched it, but I saw it. Okay, over and over and over again. And the impressions, of course, are a meaningless metric, but I firmly believe that this video was elevated because it was supposed to be like the first time that a massively influential brand chose to post on Twitter publicly. And so Mr. Beast posted an older video on Twitter and then even tweeted about like, how much money do you think it made? It made $263,000. Now, do I believe it? Do I believe it? Or do I believe that this is like extra padded stats? I believe that it was extra padded. This has shown up on my feed maybe 7 times now. It's both missing the post time next to the username, indicative of a normal user post, and the ad indicator on the top right. So is there a third secret type of post you get when you're a YouTuber and Elon wants you to post here? Like this video 100% was artificially boosted, okay? I know that it was artificially boosted because it was presented on my timeline like it was an ad. Upon closer inspection, seems like it definitely is a non-disclosed ad because you can hit the tab and you can like hide it. And you can hide it like an ad. So, for me, it was obvious that Elon Musk was doing that. Okay? It's obvious that Elon Musk was doing that. And, you know, congratulations on Mr. Beast for getting the bag. He got $250,000, which is probably nothing for him, right? And he said, but it's a bit of a facade. My first X video made over $250,000, but it's a bit of a facade. Advertisers saw the attention it was getting and bought ads on my video, I think, and thus my revenue per view is probably higher than what you'd experience. And it's really funny. It's really funny that like after Elon did all of this, he still got it's a bit of a facade. Right? After all of this, like obvious pumping, and maybe even like giving him both extra attention, like giving extra eyeballs of the video, and maybe even giving him like extra money for no particular reason other than the fact that he sees this as a marketing campaign for content creators to go and post on Twitter. He's still got it's a bit of a facade. Okay? Now, let me tell you, Jimmy, Mr. Beast Donaldson, okay, I'll use his government name for you. He loves Elon, I think. I mean, it makes sense. Elon is seen as like an aspirational figure for someone like Jimmy. He's a businessman, okay? But if there's one thing that James Mr. Beast Donaldson cares about more than anything else is analytics. So I'm telling you right now, okay? He knows this is bullshit. This is his way of, I guess, managing and being polite and saying something along the lines of like, yeah, it's probably the reason why I got more revenue here is because maybe advertisers wanted to buy the video personally and like the numbers are not good. Okay? But like, if you were to be honest, he would 100% be like, yeah, this is not like a valuable data point at all. Okay? Also, assuming YouTube pays Mr. Beast less than 1K per million views, he didn't even get as much dollars from this as he did on YouTube. There's 215 million views on YouTube that, which would be more than 250K. No, I don't think so. No, 1K for 1 million is like, I mean, these are impressions. They're not even views, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, he's giving the 250K away, obviously. Classic. Apparently, there's a pre-roll ad, which then Twitter used to boost the video is attached to. So the video itself isn't an undisclosed ad, but it's a skeezy way to juice the Mr. Beast video and make it appear to outperform. All I'm saying is this: I've never seen a Twitter video appear on my timeline that many times. Okay? I've never seen that. I have never seen that. And I think it was specifically because Elon Musk wanted to, as someone who is also fascinated by analytics, as someone who is a person who is obviously in this space as well, you know, I don't just serve you the top of the hour ad break, which by the way, I'm not going to serve you right now. I'm just giving you a 1 minute because I forgot to run the 3-minute ad break, but I'll give you the top of the hour ad break at the top of the hour. Don't forget. Okay. I just did a 1 minute one now. But as someone who's in this space, I am, you know, I'm aware of how these things work. And I think that Elon Musk, my speculation is that I think Elon Musk pumped this video because I saw it so many different times on my timeline. This is purely anecdotal, but other people were reporting similar experiences. And so I think the impressions are significantly higher than they normally would be if you were to post a regular old video on Twitter. And also on top of that, I think the revenue that he generated is also most likely fake as well. From Elon's perspective, he does this because it's a wonderful ad. It's a wonderful ad to get other content creators to go and follow suit. Mr. Beast is a tastemaker, okay? He is a industry giant when it comes to online content. He has almost single-handedly changed the way that like all of the mass producers of content on YouTube operate. People even call it the Mr. Beast effect. People get mad at it sometimes. They're like, oh, these are so overly professional, like overtly professional made like content. And, you know, YouTube is not the same anymore and we can't compete, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's Mr. Beast. Like it, hate it, doesn't matter. Mr. Beast did that, right? That is a testament to his impact. He changed the game. Elon Musk, of course, wants that on his platform because Elon Musk wants that on his platform because obviously other creators will follow suit. So I think in this circumstance, it's a bit of a marketing technique. And I don't think the numbers are valid at all. Also, Twitter Premium is a bit of a Ponzi scheme. The vast majority of users will pay $13 a month or however much it costs now for the promise of being able to earn revenue, but receive way less than $13 in revenue, thus earning Twitter free profit. Yeah. But yeah, it's a double whammy because like I think I think Mr. Beast probably likes Elon still. Like he doesn't despise Elon like most of us do, I assume. So yeah. I can confirm I saw an ad of you on your video. I will run a similar test so we can compare numbers. I received your video a couple times as an ad. Haha. Appreciate you calling that out. I wonder what. See, look. Every content creator here. One thing I will tell you about content creators is this. Okay. Those at the tippy top didn't get there always by accident. Okay. No, they're not falling for it at all. No. If you think Jack, Courage, Dunlop, doesn't know what the fuck happened here, I got a bridge to sell you. Okay? If you think Tim the Tap Man doesn't know what happened here, I got a bridge to sell you. Every single person knows exactly what happened. Every single top content creator knows what happened in this situation. Okay? Come on, dog. Jack is literally a fucking analytics demon. So is Mr. Beast. These guys are hounds at analytics. Okay? They're being very polite in the way that they're describing the situation because they don't want to like offend. Why would you want to offend a guy who gave you $263,000? Okay. Obviously. And then there's of course Nick Merckx who said, "That's a W, bro. Now go put all that on Kansas City plus 3.5 in Baltimore and double your money." Yeah. This is like, yeah, these guys are analytics gooners, okay? Except for Nick. I think he is being serious. So, yeah. That's what's going on. What is this? How is he so dumb? Immediately after Elon Musk visited Auschwitz, he replied to a post that echoes talking points popular among neo-Nazis and white supremacists who originated the White Lives Matter slogan and who cite "Kill the Boer," an anti-apartheid struggle song, as evidence of white genocide. According to Wikipedia, "Kill the Boer," anti-apartheid song, White Lives Matter, neo-Nazi slogan. That's insane. Yeah, he's like, I don't think a lot of people understand what he's doing here, okay? From Elon Musk's perspective, he's like, no, I did the thing. Come on, Jews. I did the thing. Come on, let me have this now. Like, that's it. Like, he's like, what do you want? I went to Auschwitz. What do you want? The fuck do you want? Now I get to do whatever the fuck I want to do, you know? That's like, from his framework, he's like, yeah, no, of course, I'm not going to stop being fucking racist. I'm just going to be like, not as overtly anti-Semitic. Like, it's a perfectly transactional situation here. Yeah, he thinks he did a racism carbon offset. This is his trade, exactly. And you know my man loves credits, carbon credits, okay? That's all he operates in. Do you understand? So he thought he was getting a racism carbon offset. You're absolutely correct, chatter. Just need Jonathan Greenblatt honoring him with an ADL award or something. Yeah. So yeah. All right. We did the advertiser a boost from Elon himself. Yeah, what the fuck? Elon literally gave you all our ad rev because we got nothing, Lemon Fayal. The best part about it is the best part about it is that one, this is such a funny moment because like one, Elon Musk didn't get his money's worth here because like Mr. Beast is calling it a facade and saying that there's a little bit of like fuckery going on with the numbers. Doing it politely, but still, come on. And now every blue check mark is mad at Elon Musk. I'm going to say Mr. Beast is an analytics demon. There's no way he's going to post this like, can't believe how valid and untainted holy shit, Coffee's just going to take down Elon Musk. Wait, what? Why was he having people guess the amount of dollars it made anyway? This is why it makes it extra funny that right-wing freaks will report your tweets so you don't make money off them, and it's like 30 cents. Yeah, it's extra funny. It's extra funny because I do not ever give my payment information to Twitter. I would not trust Elon Musk's platform with my payment information at all. I don't believe it's safe, and I don't care about the revenue that I would generate off of Twitter from my posts. So it's so funny because like the community notes on my tweets nowadays are like, I'll just make a joke or something. Like I'll be like, man, this guy really is out here doo-dooing in their butt. And then like the quote to you would be like, actually, there's no proof that this person has ever had a caca in their diaper. And then it's like a link to some Wikipedia page or something. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, what happened? Who are you owning? Source, wikipedia.com/poop. Anyway. So, do you think X is done if Biden wins? Wait, what? No, X is done regardless, no matter what happens. Your Ron DeSantis nickname options were justified in this poll? It was, my little Rhonda was in the additional, though. Yeah, these are my two. Meatball Ron was the best one. And then Little Rhonda was the second best one. This was my favorite community note. Elon said it's fake. Yeah. X goes bankrupt as soon as the loan Elon took comes to term. Is worth 20% of what he bought for. I don't know how that works, though. I don't know how that works, honestly, for someone who is a billionaire. You know what I mean? Anyway, this has slowly become my least favorite poll of all time. By the way, the Harvard Caps, the Harris poll, I feel like is one of the most insane polls of all time. Obviously, their methodology is solid. However, the one part of that is not solid, in my opinion, is like the way they ask questions, specifically as it pertains to Israel. Okay. Like everything else is fine, right? Everything else is fine. And it's obviously a very reliable poll overall. But the one thing that is like insanely unhinged is whenever they talk about Israel Palestine, they'll be like, do you want the only two options that are available will be like, do you think Israel is small bean, or do you think Hamas genociders should ethnically cleanse all Jews from the area? And then people will be like, well, I don't know, which is like the analog for being pro-Palestine. I guess the other one. And then you click on the other one, and then like news articles will come out and be like, 75% of 18-year-olds in the country want to ethnically cleanse all Jews from the region. Like, it's like, that's not a good poll, man. What? Those are not reasonable answers. But beyond that, it's like their methodology has sucked for a while now. 45% of Democrats supporting Dobbs. Great poll. What's going on with Harris just putting out total junk over the past year? Oh, wait. What are they saying? People who design websites do not have a design a website for a gay wedding. The president did not have the authority without congressional vote to forego $400 billion. Abortion law should be left to states instead of being a national constitutional right. 56%. 44% say wrong. Wait. Where is it? Where does it say this? Look at the Dems number. Dem column. The president did not have the authority. People to design websites. Abortion laws should be left to the states instead of being a national constitutional right. 45% of the Democrats said yes to that. That's insane. Yeah, okay. No. This is just like, you are not asking the right question if you're getting that result. Okay? I'm sorry. That is so inconsistent. And for the record, that's not even like a little inconsistent. That is like in the opposite direction, okay, of inconsistency. Yeah, no, that is a really, really convoluted way of asking that question that probably confused people. There's no fucking way. Favorability of political figures, by the way. God, this is the best. RFK Jr., Musk, and Haley enjoy the highest net favorability. Elon Musk still has one of the highest favorabilities. Donald Trump has the highest very favorable metric here, by the way, on the list. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at 14% and 35% favorability. Donald Trump, most passionate fan base in the game, as you guys know. Same with Elon Musk, very high passionate fan base. Joe Biden has a very high passionate fan base as well. I guess in comparison to Elon Musk and whatnot, but like nothing comes near Donald Trump. You got RFK at 14% and then 35% favorable. That is crazy. Plus 18. Donald Trump is 0% because it's a half and half type situation where he here. This is important. Here, what's important here with the Donald Trump number is that he still has an incredibly passionate fan base, right? But then he also has more people who are very passionately haters of him. Okay? So that is something to remember, okay? You know, this graph ain't worth shit when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are seen as equally favorable. No, that makes sense. These are like the rugged, diehard Democrats. These are the older voters in the party. But remember, Joe Biden's disapproval is higher, so he's at a minus 14%. Harris at a R plus 6 for 2022 midterms. Wait, what? The Harris-Harvard CAPS poll should be treated like Trashfalgar. He's a noted right-wing hack and constantly has Trump's favorability around -3, which is just blatantly false. Also an R plus 6 generic ballot guy for 2022. I just need to hear it. Is Trump going to be president again? I'm listening, but I'm sick to my stomach with anxiety. Well, don't be anxious. There is a likelihood that Trump might be president again, but 100% likelihood that you will see an ad break at the top of the hour. So gear up towards that ad break by subscribing for $5 or for free at the top of the hour so you don't see that 3-minute ad break. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. How are people arguing with the survey? It's literally just presenting what people said. What do you mean? Half of the people don't even understand what these questions mean. My friend, the entire point of a survey is to ask clear questions. Okay? Like, the abortion issue can be presented in a million different ways. If it's presented as, do you support murdering babies? And then that's a substitute for, like, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, for example, then that survey design is incredibly flawed. Having a conversation surrounding the questions is profoundly important, especially when a survey result shows a massive difference in comparison to probably one of the most polled issues in this election cycle. In this election cycle, one of the most surveyed, most polled issues is abortion. If you see that majorly of a difference in the way that Democrats think about abortion, that means you fucked up on the question. You did not actually write a appropriate question. Anyway. Yeah, and I've seen this on, like, obviously I've joked about this with, like, their Israel-Palestine polling that is so disingenuous. They'll be like, do you support Hamas and the Islamic Caliphate, or do you support Israel? Like, that's not a way to ask that question. Like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, people need an option to pick that the Palestinian population and their plight in this circumstance. They're the ones who are the victims, right? So, yeah, if you ask that question, they're going to be like, yeah, okay, you know, all glory to the martyrs. Let's, inshallah, restore the Islamic Caliphate. Like, I love Hamas. Like, that's the way that people fucking pick it. And that's not a good way to conduct a study. You didn't learn anything. Yeah. Average Harris poll will be like, do you want to live in a state where communism reigns free, unchecked abortions, illegals invade your cities, and taxes are 99%? No, 65%. Yes, 35%. Yeah. October 19th question, which got 83% true. Do you think it's true that Hamas terrorists killed 1,200 Israeli civilians by shooting them, raping, and beheading people, including whole families, kids, and babies, or is that a false story? Great question. What the fuck do you learn about that? I guess that, like, you know, not very good. People are not very good at, like, analyzing media, analyzing information, especially when the media presents it as true, especially when the media presents it as true, and then beyond that, they, the president will repeat it. Question, are you a terrorist or are you an American patriot? Yeah. U.S. military, police, and the FBI are most favored institutions. Yeah, that's not shocking. Police still being a favorite institution is insane to me. Plus 48%. But of course, America is a white supremacist nation. So, of course, dude, the fact that Facebook is a favorite institution is also insane. That's crazy. Black Lives Matter, on the other hand, not favored. Twitter, on the other hand, also not favored. Palestinian Authority, not favored, understandably. China, people fucking hate China more than anything else on this list. People hate China, people hate Antifa, and people hate Hamas. Hamas and China, two of the least favored institutions on this list. So when you fucking ask, Hasan, it seems like a lot of people hate you nowadays. Well, maybe it's because I don't openly, mouth-wateringly fucking hate, like get an aneurysm when someone talks about China, okay? Or Hamas in the same exact fucking way. Now you understand how fucking reactionary the United States of America and its population is. Also, really funny when you got people that go, never heard of them for China. I guess a very small population. Why do people hate China so much? It's the worst country on the planet, brother. What are you talking about? And then immigration is now seen as a top issue facing the nation, up 7 points ahead of inflation this month. Yeah. Why is it up 7 points ahead of inflation this month? Because right-wing media dominates the discourse in a country where the Democratic Party or its media operations don't have any real tangible ideological policy positions, prescriptions, or any real interest in changing the way that we operate. So when the Democrats don't do shit, first it's the inflation situation, and everybody yells about inflation, okay? And then when there's a soft landing, I guess, on the inflation front, and inflation is like a little bit more manageable, then boom, immigration. Fox literally turns the dial. It is crazy how much ground we cede to fascists anytime we do not fucking correct the record on any of these media, any of these liberal institutions. Okay? They're all asleep at the goddamn wheel. And at a certain point, you have to recognize that it is by design. The Democratic Party has no decent counter message against immigration. They don't. They just literally let the Republicans run the table. They let the Republicans yell about how scary immigration is. They let the Republicans yell about how big of a problem it is. Republicans used to tie immigration to the economy. Now they directly tie it to the crime spree and drugs. None of this is real. Okay? The notion that the migrant crisis is like responsible for America's drug usage is psychotic. Okay? Damn near the entirety of drug traffickers apprehended at the border are American citizens. 94% of drugs that come through the border come through regular points of entry. It is not like otherwise law-abiding abuelas and abuelitas that are fucking, bringing bags of fentanyl alongside their babies when they're crossing the border. There's not a lot of fentanyl you can traffic that way. It's much easier to get an American citizen to fucking carve open their goddamn car and shove bags of fentanyl in there because they're not going to get stopped. Oh. It's completely made up. Here, I retweeted this Walter Masterson tweet the other day as well. The Border Patrol totally didn't mention that the suspect was a United States citizen. Total coincidence. On the 12th of January, CBP officers in Arizona located and seized approximately 492,000 fentanyl pills hidden inside the bed of a pickup truck. Wow. So shocking. I wonder why they didn't mention that part of the story, even though that is literally the highest likelihood. That's how it works. Who is less likely to get stopped by Border Patrol when trafficking a shit ton of drugs? Someone who's Mexican, someone who looks Mexican, or someone who's a white American for the most part, or at least an American citizen. What makes you think that? What makes me think that is because I actually read studies on this stuff as a professional commentator. Okay. That's why I know what I'm talking about. You're also looking at one specific example of how these things work. Anyway. Yeah, make no mistake. I am illiterate still. Okay. Yes, I'm still illiterate. Let it be known. All right. You got economy and jobs at 25%. Understandable. Price increases and inflation at 32%. Understandable. Crime and drugs is 16%. Weird that they would fucking put crime and drugs together, because I feel like drugs is a totally separate issue on top of that. But I assume that the reason why they put crime and drugs there is because it's a good way to boost the crime stat when the fucking crime is not high at all. Even though, if you look at the midterm stuff, crime was the number one issue. I wonder why. Because the media literally fucking runs the show. Local news, all the way to Fox News, and every liberal broadcaster has this stranglehold on the American population. Okay? From Sinclair in the local news subsidiaries all the way to Fox News with Rupert Murdoch. These guys will turn around and say crime is going out of control. It's out of control. It's out of control. It's out of control. Trust me, it's so scary. Look at all these black people. They're doing organized retail theft. And then they will tie false data to that. They will show the National Retailers Association numbers and present it falsely as though like organized retail theft is the reason why they have so much more shrink, right? And it's all bullshit. And the guys that sit there and fucking tell you that that is not the case and that actually crime is lower and lower and steadily dropping, especially when you look at like a much larger, especially when you pull back and look at a macro analysis, okay? And you look at the reasons why stores are closing in certain areas, like it has nothing to do with fucking crime. And people yell at me over it. They've been yelling at me over it for years. I've been saying this. And even people whose job it is to read between the lines. Okay? Like Cenk, my own goddamn uncle. A beacon of, I guess, progressive politics for a very long time. When he's the one who's being duped and leaning into this like reactionary framing because he's 100% been duped, it's scary. One of the judges in my county I work in told the DA to charge more people for shit so they can hire another judge and build an expansion on the courthouse. The crime wave is literally manufactured. Yes. If you look at the data, then I'm right. Hasan sucks, lol. Yes, brother. This is an anti-intellectualist argument. What do you mean? Yeah. That's like most of the arguments that I make. Yeah. Hello? Data can be manipulated for sure, but data is perhaps one of the best, least biased ways of analyzing a situation. But looking at a situation and pulling yourself out of it. Okay? If your car gets broken into, well, this is a passionate issue for you then. If you see homeless people, and you tie homelessness to a byproduct of crime, right? Then in your mind, you're a little biased. You're biased from your own personal experiences. You are not going to pull yourself out of that situation and look at the broader picture. Okay? That's why we have to look at empirical evidence, because anecdotes are heavily biased. Please share the data, though. Just don't spew anecdotes. Shrink plays a huge role in capital investments and divestments. I will link you a YouTube video that I did on this that has all of the sources in it. because I don't want to like argue with you back and forth. This is an issue I've covered for I would say for the past couple of years now. Okay, and you can watch that and be educated on it. But it wasn't, nothing I said was anecdotes. As far as shrink goes, the percentage of shrink that comes from outside theft is marginal and hasn't actually grown out of control. Okay, even though the entirety of shrink is covered in the media as though it's like all responsible for theft. Like when the media covers shrink, they look at the larger number. I think it's like what, 32 billion or something. I forget what it is, right? I don't remember off the top of my dome, but the media will look at that and go, that's all organized retail theft. That's all theft in general. External theft, even though external theft is a small part of that. And the growth of external theft is what you need to track and adjust to the growth of more shoppers in general, more foot traffic in general. And according to the National Retailers Association's own analysis off of their own numbers, shrink has grown consistently with foot traffic, and outside theft has not actually grown dramatically in this process. That is precisely the reason why Walgreens and CVS and all of these other institutions that closed up brick and mortar retail shops and locations in certain heavy foot traffic areas claim that they did it specifically because crime was out of control, even though when you looked at the actual crime that was happening at those locations, it wasn't higher than crime happening in any other location. And then they openly admitted a year later or a couple months later that they were actually lying about the role crime played. But guess what? I'm sure that it looked better in their quarterly reports when they hid the real reason as to why they were, engaging in these store closures and blaming it on a popular reactionary narrative. At the time, I said it too. And it's so funny that these same groups, right? Like these same institutions, like the New York Times, like legacy media in general, these guys turn around, right, and say, I can't believe that Americans believe crime is a massive problem. Why do they believe crime is a massive problem when it seems like the data shows that crime is not a massive problem? Yeah. Crime is down, but fear is up. Why is LA perceived as dangerous? I wonder fucking why. You, man, you're the reason. How many articles did you write about organized retail theft being a gigantic issue? Yeah. Outgoing LAPD Chief Michael Moore defense record. Critics say good riddance. How many did you, LaMFA? Crime is manufactured. What's next? The government deficit is manufactured too. Wait, what? I mean, yeah, the narrative around the deficit is manufactured, certainly. And as far as thinking that like I participated in the crime spree narrative, yeah, I participated in it by, yelling about it. Yelling about how false it is. And every single person, this is one of the videos. Crimes, and I want crimes to happen. Big fan of crimes happening. Yeah, this is from 3 months ago. This is one of the many videos I've done on this issue, but but yeah, something to consider, okay? Let's move on from this crime narrative as well. People don't care about healthcare as much, which I think is crazy. People care about guns at 15%. National debt, federal budget deficits at 14% is crazy. Terrorism and national security is at 14%. Corruption at 13%. Nice, dude. People don't give a single shit about like any liberal issues for the most part. Across all party lines, inflation is still seen as the most important issue to voters personally, but immigration has increased 3%. 3 points. I wonder why. Yeah. All right. Israel Prime Minister defies U.S. President Biden over Palestinian two-state solution. Once we're done with this, I'm going to talk about the CNN report, and then we'll move on. The other thing I want to talk about is actually the Daily. The Daily actually did a video specifically on the ICJ, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Israeli airstrikes and street battles with Hamas have been continuing in Gaza, where Palestinian health officials say the number of dead has passed 25,000. It comes as Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has again rejected the idea of creating a Palestinian state, despite a phone call with US President Biden, who said he believed that might still be possible. Mr. Netanyahu also rejected Hamas's demands for Israeli forces to withdraw from Gaza in return for the release of the Israeli hostages. With the latest from Jerusalem, here's Mark Lowen.
Lives on a list that grows by the day. An overnight airstrike adding them to a new milestone. More than 25,000 killed in Gaza since Israel's offensive began, says Hamas. Numbers out of date by the hour. Israel's focus is now southern Gaza, pounded from the air, backed by naval strikes. But there have been clashes in the north too. Israel's army, vastly superior to Hamas, is still facing significant resistance across the territory. The Israeli Defense Forces released pictures of a new tunnel they say they found, booby-trapped and more than 800 meters long. And they say it's likely to have held Israeli hostages.
I want to point to something that has been said already, but the New York Times wrote a disgusting article talking about like how the death toll is actually diminished in Gaza. Does this spell that Israel is no longer attacking Gaza as hard? And the reality is, no, Israel has destroyed all hospital staff. Pretty much, like there's, I believe only 15 hospitals in the Gaza Strip are like barely operational at this point. And by that, I mean like they're working with nothing pretty much. Okay. And because of that, obviously the death counts are not going to be as accurate. Okay. So only one is fully operational.
In the tunnel, we found 5 cells.
Yeah, here. The IDF purposely destroyed every means of civil record keeping in Gaza, from hospitals, parliament, universities, all of it. If New York Times reported these, it added they were Hamas run to make a genocide more palatable. Now hundreds still die every day and they'll ignore it entirely. Like, I cannot believe that the New York Times wrote on their newsletter this morning, the decline of deaths in Gaza, the daily death toll in Gaza has fallen in half over the past month, reflecting a change in the war strategy. That blows my mind. That blows my mind, dude. Is it the CNN report on IDF desecrating Palestinian grave cemeteries and exhuming bodies to run them over with bulldozers and absurdly claiming it's to look for remaining hostages? Yeah, we're going to cover that in a second after I'm done with this part. James O'Brien this morning on the radio trying to argue that it is not a genocide. State propaganda is full force the past 3 months. It's insane. I will say this much. I found it strange that even the New York Times Daily actually covered the ICJ at all. The Daily this morning had a full-blown coverage of the ICJ. They spent 9 minutes on the South African side. Okay. 9 whole minutes. I looked at it. And then the rest of it was basically just like Israel's defense. And Israel's defense is so insane. As we've covered already, Israel's defense is so insane that it like does a disservice no matter which way you cut it. Because Israel's defense basically is the Holocaust happened to us, and that's why we are understandably afraid of it happening again. And that's why we think October 7 was an attempt at the Holocaust. And that's why we can do, really violent things and say genocidal things. But the genocidal things personally that we are doing is just a heated gamer moment. And that's why we've said genocidal things. But we also have the right and responsibility to do genocidal things. And then, they covered it for like the next 20 minutes. But I do think that it's still so insane that no matter how you massage that, I feel like hopefully I see the humanity in liberals that will look at that and go, nah, dude, that's crazy. The proportionality response, there is no way that the proportionality response is appropriate. Okay? But yeah, we've reached the upper limit of how many dead. Officially, J Street, which originally started the threats to blackball progressives who call for a ceasefire in October, J Street is now effectively calling for one finally after 25,000 plus deaths and 10,000 more maimed. What was accomplished even by their own perverse logic? Nothing. The end game was always pointless mass death. That's it. After those stats you saw, you still have hope in liberals. I have to have hope in the humanity of people. Doesn't matter what their ideological background is. You want to know why? Because if I don't have hope in people, then there is nothing. Like, I shouldn't do this at all. I should just be playing fucking Pal World right now. Who gives a shit? You must not cave to nihilistic temptation. Okay? If you feel powerless in the face of so much chaos and so many atrocities that you see, then you will give up. And it feels maybe good to give up. It's like you're drowning, and in that last gasp you decide it's too late for me. I can't save myself. I might as well, close my eyes and let it happen and die. Okay? Sweet release of death. Except you died. Okay? You have to keep fighting. That's it. For me, I'll be honest, what keeps me going is how much spite I have and how stubborn and how prideful I am, I guess. How proud I am. I'm just not going to capitulate because I'm getting a sea of reaction from liberals who used to be allies of mine, who presented themselves as ideologically aligned to what I believe in. Okay? We can't give up. There's no way. There's no way that you can give up. You can't. Does not feel good to think of even giving up. I'd be lying if I said I do not have weak moments, but I pull myself out every time. Yeah, we cannot let go of our support for humanity and the Palestinian people in general. Okay? There's a reason why so many who are vociferously defending bombing Yemen as a means to continue the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Previously, maybe a couple months back, if you were to ask them, would tell you the invasion of Iraq was completely unacceptable. Okay? The arc of justice is long. It takes a long time for things to get fixed. Okay? But you can never give up. Even so-called leftist anti-Zionists are racist as fuck. No, there's a lot of conditional help that people offer. Like their allegiances to the Palestinian people, or their allegiances to the Middle Eastern people and the population, is it only goes so far as like these guys are perfect victims. Did you watch the heated Israel TYT video yet or not? No. What are you talking about? Those same people are pro-Iraq war now as well. Is it really justice or just what they do for show? Anyway. I think they're talking about Jake arguing one of his Israeli Zionist co-hosts. No, I haven't seen it, but I don't care. I do find the resurgence of interventionism in political discourse interesting. It's almost as simple as the fact that that is being done by liberals. That's it. I mean, liberals always have a slant towards interventionism. They recognize that they benefit from it, but also it's just chauvinism. It's pure Western chauvinism. We are mistaken if we believe that liberals actually carry the goals and the values that they espouse. They do not. They are not honest brokers. Okay? They are not truthful when they say they are progressives, especially if they routinely stand to be a bottleneck for progress. Okay? They're just optically progressive. They only care when, they only care about it if it's like a Republican doing it. My dad has told me point blank he doesn't want to talk about Palestine anymore because he thinks I get too emotional over it. I'm not even getting that emotional, just trying to explain things he's factually wrong or ignorant about. How can I keep having these important conversations when they just get shut down instantly like that? I mean, there's not really much you can do at that point, There's really... I do believe right now, if Trump was president and the very same policies were continuing in Gaza, Israel's approval rating overall would be absolutely eviscerated. If there was this level of attention being paid to Israel and Trump was the one who was leading that charge, oh my God. Liberals did this with Black Lives Matter. Okay? Black Lives Matter started under the Barack Obama administration. Liberals, including the Podjohns themselves, openly were antagonistic towards BLM. Once Donald Trump started positioning himself against Black Lives Matter and Colin Kaepernick, that's when a lot of liberals turned around and were like, maybe actually not so bad. Okay? Many liberals were not upset when Barack Obama had a white nativist immigration policy. But when Donald Trump did it and then turned around and correctly said, well, who do you think built the camps? Barack Obama did. They got mad. Because it's never about the actual issues. It's about who's the one advocating for them. It's team sports. That's it. As long as you marginally improve the conditions, as long as you sanitize it, right? Like they're no longer kids in cages, the immigration overflow detention facility, then it's fine. So yeah. How can you control liberals by framing every policy Biden is doing and setting up something for the incoming Trump admin is going to continue? Yeah. Now, of course, this doesn't mean personally that like Trump would be better on Gaza. Of course he wouldn't. Problem is, Biden is continuing Trump's policies in Gaza to begin with, and he's ideologically minded on the issue of Israel. This is the one issue that he's not a centrist on. Biden is a permacentrist, okay? He always triangulates, he always course corrects on everything. He sees what's going on, and he always tries to land dead center on everything, with the exception of Israel. His allegiance to Israel was far before he ever actually reached like the executive office, whether it's VP or like it goes all the way back to the 80s. On that front, he is not dead center at all. There are plenty of people in his own administration, in his own State Department, that's currently trying to rein Israel back in. Trump would be just as right-wing, though, of course, because it's Trump. He doesn't give a shit if Muslims die. And a lot of Americans don't personally care about, like, American foreign policy. The saying goes, foreign policy is not an issue until it becomes the issue, okay? In American elections, Americans don't care about foreign policy until it becomes the issue, okay? So that's something you got to remember. What does that mean? As long as American foreign policy is seen as like regular maintenance, doesn't matter how many bodies are out there. Until it becomes an issue that is prominent, until it's like prominently featured, like the continuation of the Vietnam War towards the end. Okay? Or invasion of Iraq. That's it. Anyway, let's do a GDF video again. It's been a while. Debunking Israel's defense speed run.
I watched Israel's response to South Africa. Let's get right into it.
The court meets this morning to hear the state of Israel present its single round of oral argument in the case concerning application of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in the Gaza Strip, South Africa versus Israel. I shall now give the floor to the co-agent of Israel, Mr. Tal Becker. You have the floor, Excellency.
If there have been acts that may be characterized as genocidal, then they have been perpetrated against Israel.
There needs to be a capacity or a capability to commit a genocide. To be able to engage in the level of violence associated with genocide, perpetrators need time to develop the capacity to do so, mobilize the resources, and take concrete steps that will help them to achieve their objective. The Hamas incursion was repelled in a couple days.
When Israel withdrew all its soldiers and civilians from Gaza in 2005, it left a coastal area with the potential to become a political and economic success story.
In 2012, Amira Haas wrote for Haaretz an article confirming the existence of a so-called Red Lines document. The Red Lines document calculates the minimum number of calories needed by every age and gender group in Gaza, 2,279 calories per person per day. From this, they reduced the quantity of fruits and vegetables, milk, and meat and poultry. The idea is to put the Palestinians on a diet, but not to make them die of hunger. The quantity of fruit and vegetables Gaza could produce for itself was expected to decline from 1,000 tons a day to 500 within a few months due to the Israeli ban on bringing in seeds, as well as the ban on exporting produce.
Remarkably, counsel for the applicant described the suffering in Gaza as unparalleled and unprecedented.
The devastation and the scale of the campaign was affirmed by none other than an investigation by the Washington Post. The evidence shows that Israel has carried out its war in Gaza at a pace and level of devastation that likely exceeds any recent conflict. Aleppo, they say, is 1.5 times the size of northern Gaza. However, nearly twice as many structures were destroyed in northern Gaza in 7 weeks as were destroyed in Aleppo over 3 years. There's also Mosul, Iraq. In Iraq, as reported by the Associated Press on December 22nd, during the 2014 to 2017 campaign to defeat the Islamic State in Iraq, the U.S.-led coalition carried out nearly 15,000 strikes across the country. By comparison, the Israeli military said they conducted 22,000 strikes in the last week.
What is actually unparalleled and unprecedented is the degree to which Hamas has entrenched itself within the civilian population throughout the Strip, with thousands of access points and terrorist hubs located in homes, mosques, UN facilities, schools, and perhaps most shockingly, hospitals. Every civilian casualty in this conflict is a human tragedy.
The current Israeli war cabinet includes Gadi Eisenkot, who, in 2008, while IDF chief of Northern Command, conceived the Dahiyya Doctrine, whereby civilian areas will be disproportionately attacked by Israel in response to rocket attacks. Israel would take one important lesson away from its war with Lebanon: its complete obliteration of the Beirut suburb of Dahiyya, and a new initiative led by former IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot would bear its name. What happened in the Dahiyya quarter of Beirut in 2006 will happen in every village from which Israel is fired on. This isn't a suggestion. This is a plan that has already been authorized. Retired Major General Giora Eiland would invoke Dahiyya in his policy prescription for Israel in the event of another war with Lebanon. Serious damage to the Republic of Lebanon, the destruction.
This is why I hate when people say their bombing is indiscriminate. It's always targeted. Yeah, I think it's worse that it's targeted.
Of homes and infrastructure, and the suffering of hundreds of thousands of people.
Because, like, you know what is indiscriminate? Hamas rockets. They're indiscriminate because they are limited with the technology that they have. Israel's bombing campaign is very much discriminate, which makes it so much worse because they target it deliberately. Obviously, the outcome of that looks like it's indiscriminate because they've killed off a shit ton of civilians and they've leveled entire neighborhoods. Okay? But they are doing that deliberately. Okay? They're using not only dumb weapons, but smart munitions as well, especially when they have an arsenal full of much smaller munitions. They could be using precise munitions. They could be using drone strikes. They have bombs that specifically take out just one floor of a building. I've shown you this before. They have bombs that can take out just one floor of a building. Literally leave everything else intact.
Are consequences that can influence Hezbollah's behavior more than anything else. So according to several Israeli officials, as reported in an investigation by the Israeli 972 magazine, the bombing of power targets meaning private residences as well as public buildings, infrastructure, and high-rise blocks, which sources say the army defines as power targets, is mainly intended to harm Palestinian civil society, to create a shock that, among other things, will reverberate powerfully and lead civilians to put pressure on Hamas.
But the court is not told how many thousands of casualties are in fact militants. Israel's lawful aims in Gaza have been clearly and repeatedly articulated by its Prime Minister.
You must remember what Amalek has done to you, says our Holy Bible, and we do remember. And
it's so funny that they their entire argument literally revolves around we were just having a bit of a heated gamer moment. Oh, all the guys that you showed that you said had genocidal intent, as you literally drew a direct line from the mouth of those in positions of power, from Yoav Gallant to Benjamin Netanyahu, all the way down to the infantrymen that are dancing and singing about Amalek and how they're going to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. All of that is actually just everybody having a heated gaming moment collectively. And it's a valid heated gaming moment too, because the real genocidal intent is on the Hamas front.
And we are fighting.
Its defense minister.
We'll remember that it was on October 9th when Defense Minister Yoav Gallant announced
no food, no water, no gas, it's all closed. We're fighting animals and are acting accordingly.
Just days later, he told troops, amid growing tensions with Lebanon, he revealed,
it is the citizens of Lebanon that will pay the price of these kinds of mistakes. What we are doing in Gaza, we can do in Beirut.
And all members of the War Cabinet. As the Prime Minister reaffirms, Israel seeks neither to permanently occupy Gaza.
With regard to bringing the population back, in the words of Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs Eli Cohen, at the end of this war, not only will Hamas no longer be in Gaza, but the territory of Gaza will also decrease.
Or to displace its civilian population.
On December 14th, the World Food Program published a food security update where they reported that more than 85% of the population of Gaza have been displaced.
And I now invite Professor Malcolm Shaw.
Hamas's explicit goal is to eradicate Jewish life from the Holy Land.
Setting aside the fact that Hamas rarely invokes the Charter, according to a 2009 report from the United States Institute of Peace, a federal institution, which read, the Charter itself contains statements that reflect a lack of hostility toward Jews on the basis of religion. For example, as Article 31 states, under Islam, the followers of the three religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, may coexist peacefully and safely. According to the RAND Corporation, the major defense think tank, Hamas dropped the language explicitly calling for Israel's destruction, which suggests an effort by Hamas to portray itself as more of an Islamic national liberation movement.
These atrocities do not justify violations of the law in reply, still less genocide. But they do justify, mandate even, the exercise of the legitimate and inherent right of a state to defend itself.
You can't invoke self-defense to justify criminal behavior.
Yeah, and also Israel, as the belligerent occupier under international law, has no right to self-defense. So that part is completely wrong. It's super wrong. I don't even think these guys were actually just trying to make a case, a legal case. I think they were simply trying to make a case to the Western media that refused to cover the first half of this ICJ court case, the South African side that clearly defined genocidal intent, showed that Israel was doing it, and proved it in my opinion. Whereas I do think that they only showed this side for the most part because they wanted to get the message out. They only wanted to show Israel's defense. That's basically what they've been doing since October 7th. Okay? Do you think the Israeli support of Hamas, like in its early stages, can be summed up as premeditated self-defense? No. No, Israel wanted to deal with Hamas as the only entity, specifically so that they could, say that they're terrorists. They're terrorists. All Palestinians are terrorists, so we can only deal with them through ethnic cleansing. I don't know when the verdict will come, and I don't know what the verdict will look like, but I do know that it is completely ridiculous to say that what Israel is doing is justifiable. It's completely ridiculous. Like, if the United States of America nuked it would be like the bombings in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the bombing of Black Wall Street as an act of self-defense. It's not, okay? If that happened today, it would be considered a unimaginable war crime. The difference is, of course, it would be America doing that. So once again, just like with Israel, everyone would be talking about how valid it is actually, and how legitimate it is, and how it's totally, that you shouldn't think of it as a war crime, but instead that black people deserve it. More like the move bombing. No, I think Tulsa is a little bit better than the move bombing, because the move bombing was still insane, right? And still incredibly violent, but it was more limited than Tulsa. Tulsa was discriminately indiscriminate, I guess, with respect to just taking out an entire city. Move was just more recent. It was an entire city block.
Per the Rome Statute, the fact that the person was involved in a defensive operation conducted by forces shall not in itself constitute a ground for excluding criminal responsibility. Further, the Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia ruled in its decision for Milan Martic that the rule which states that reprisals against the civilian population as such, or individual civilians, are prohibited in all circumstances, even when confronted by wrongful behavior of the other party, is an integral part of customary international law and must be respected in all armed conflicts. Reprisals must always be proportionate to the attacks to which they are responding and must never aim at civilians or protected objects. If these conditions are not respected, then it is an act of revenge.
That Israeli forces have transgressed some of the rules of conflict, then the matter will be tackled at the appropriate time by Israel's robust and independent legal system.
The last large-scale invasion of the Gaza Strip was in 2014, Operation Protective Edge, as it was called, which Amnesty International called deliberate destruction and targeting of civilian buildings and property on a large scale carried out without military necessity. I've never seen such massive destruction ever before, said then Red Cross Chief Peter Maurer, yet only 4 Israeli officers were convicted of any wrongdoing. The harshest sentence was 7 months for stealing a credit card. 2 soldiers who used a 9-year-old child as a human shield received 3-month suspended sentences. No jail.
As from Israel's withdrawal of its civilian and military presence from Gaza in 2005, which brought an end to its belligerent occupation.
It's more popular to say that Gaza is somehow free from Israeli control, even though it enforces what a UN report described as a medieval military blockade, controlling imports and exports, export taxes, the territorial waters and airspace, and has blocked the building of an airport and seaport. They control electricity lines, the underwater cable that phone calls are placed on, the network that provides internet, and the frequencies assigned to Palestinian cell phone companies. There's a reason Human Rights Watch, the International Committee of the Red Cross, the United Nations, and Israel's leading expert on international law, Professor Yoram Dinstein of Tel Aviv University, have all concluded that Gaza is occupied by Israel and is therefore responsible for its population. It has failed considerably at maintaining their well-being.
Dog, you got called medieval? Dude, Israel's siege this is why I always say Israel's biggest crime is trying to do this in 2023 and 2024. Okay? If they were doing this in the 16th century, then yeah, no, this would be obviously still barbaric with today's eyes, but like that's kind of how things went back then. You know what I mean? This is literally a medieval siege. It is what it is. Except it's being done with modern weapons.
Michael Link, Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in the Palestinian Territories, reported in 2022, Gaza had undergone a multi-decade process of de-development and de-industrialization, resulting in a 45% unemployment rate and 60% poverty rate, with 80% of the population dependent on some form of international assistance.
People saying Russia is evil for what is happening in Ukraine, but defending Israel facepalm. Yeah, I mean, that's like when you have no real position other than like America good. And whatever America says goes. That's it. I think I'm going to just start saying that to all my haters. Like, all you say is just America good. Like, you just literally lap up whatever the fuck America tells you. Okay? Yeah, you have no convictions. You have no moral compass. You literally are confused at the top of the hour when there's a 3-minute ad break. You don't even know that it's coming. And you don't even try to avoid said ads at the top of the hour. But you can by subscribing for $5 or for free, by the way. Okay? Straight up. If you want to, that is. Here's a 3-minute ad break now.
Assistance. As B'Tselem concludes, Israel has continued to control nearly every aspect of life in Gaza from outside.
And I now give the floor to Ms. Galit Ragwan. You have the floor.
The application presents Israel's call to civilians to evacuate areas of intensive hostilities. Quote, as
King Henry the Fourth with the 50 big ones. Holy moly, allowing 50 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. He's crazy.
An act calculated to bring about its physical destruction. Quote, this is a particularly egregious allegation. Evacuation of civilians is recognized under international humanitarian law as one of the measures that may be implemented to protect civilians from the effects of ongoing hostilities. Indeed, such evacuation may even amount to a duty that the party to the conflict has towards civilians.
Israel's Energy Minister Israel Katz made it clear when he said, all the civilian population in Gaza is ordered to leave immediately. We will win. They will not receive a drop of water or a single battery until they
War, crime, slaughter, evil. My super educated, literate New York Times reading sister swallows the line, hook, line, and sinker. You have to work to think outside the US/Israel propaganda box. Yeah. People, I think, oftentimes mistake like being readers and being intellectuals, I guess, with like a lower likelihood of being receptive to propaganda. If every single outlet that you read is unconditionally force-feeding you a narrative that is just objectively untrue, you're going to go along with it. Why else wouldn't you? That's it. Why would you ever think critically beyond like looking at what the New York Times is saying? Why would you look to read between the lines? Marl Karks, 49, 42069, 42069. Thank you for the 5. Get the subs.
leave the world. Indeed, the alternative to leaving was declared in no uncertain terms by Defense Minister Yoav Gallant.
Those who want to save their life, please go south.
And by IDF leaflets and cell phone audio messages. Your presence north of Wadi Gaza puts your life in danger. Whoever chooses not to leave North Gaza to the south of Wadi Gaza might be identified as an accomplice in a terrorist organization. And the destruction of homes and property ensured that there's nowhere for them to go back to. In the trial judgment for Mladen Neledilic and Vinko Martinovic, the Criminal Tribunal for Yugoslavia interpreted that the deliberate destruction of homes was indicative of intent to forcibly displace civilians. When a genuine evacuation takes place, there is an obligation to bring the population back when the hostilities have ended.
There are a lot of people who functionally know what Israel's doing is wrong, but prefer to support Israel because it nets them benefits financially or politically. They'll lie and toe the line knowing full well they're supporting the oppressor. I mean, there's that too. There's a variety of different ideas. It's like that drill tweet. It's like, oh, like on the one hand, I want to on the one hand, I want to call out gross war crimes that Israel's committing, but on the other hand, I want a job after Harvard. And it's like, yeah, of course. That certainly plays a role. It's so clear cut, but I'm genuinely worried they're not going to be found guilty of even intent. Yeah.
No attempts to return them were made. In fact, most of their houses were torched.
The IDF maintains a civilian harm mitigation unit. It works full-time to provide advance notice of areas in which the IDF intends to intensify its activities.
Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant ordered over 1 million residents in Gaza's north to relocate south. Gaza's north contains all of Gaza City and the largest hospital in all of the Gaza Strip, Al-Shifa. The New York Times also reports that while fleeing, an Israeli airstrike struck a convoy of vehicles trying to flee the north along a main highway. Despite the evacuation order to separate Hamas from the civilian population, Israel is still bombing the south, which is crammed with hundreds of thousands of fleeing refugees. And as I reported days ago, last Tuesday, the IDF spokesperson said the emphasis is on damage rather than on precision.
Israel has publicly stated repeatedly
Israel.
there is no limit on the amount of food, water, shelter, or medical supplies that can be brought into Gaza.
I wanted to begin with a new report.
That's a lie, by the way. And even the New York Times' Daily had to like correct that. Okay? That was such an abject lie that even the New York Times' Daily straight up turned around and was like, yeah, reporting on the ground confirms that, Israel is greatly limiting the food supply going into the Gaza Strip. So it's just, there's, I guess there's no real perjury in that situation. You can just like lie as much as you want in international court. Right? Like there's no real repercussions for that, is there? Here is the leaflet is psychopathic for 2 reasons. The Quran verse used is clearly interpreted as anyone who supports or find Hamas an ally is a Hamas member. Honest conquest, what the heck should that supposed to mean? So Israeli military distributed leaflets over Khan Yunis ordering residents to disown Hamas. The leaflets include a verse from the Quran stating, "He among you who taketh them from friends is one of them." The message concluded with the name of the operation, the Honest Conquest. So, I mean, that's another admission that, like, I guess you are automatically considered an enemy combatant if you are involved, if you are involved in any capacity. Or if you aren't, like, I guess, openly or sufficiently saying that that Hamas is bad while you're in the process of being fucking bombed, then, you deserved it. And it's a valid kill. One other thing that I wanted to show you, by the way, is Israel's actions being absolutely nutty. Where is it? Where is the Eunice posted another. Eunice Tarawi posted another post earlier. Their account is great at showcasing like the atrocities on the ground, obviously, and the callous indifference that Israel demonstrates. But there was another thing that he posted specifically about, I think, one of the tanks that was, according to Al-Qassam, I believe it's Al-Qassam, yeah, Hamas military wing states that following their attack on an Israeli Merkava tank west of Han Yunis this evening, the Israeli rescue forces couldn't pull out the damaged tank. In response, the Israeli military used the airstrike to wipe out the tank in fear of the soldier being kidnapped. They implemented the Hannibal directive on one of their own Merkavas when the tank was, when the tank was rendered useless. For people saying, wait, what? if you're unfamiliar with this process, it happened on October 7 as well. It's called the Hannibal Directive. Okay? The Hannibal Directive dictates, and this is like on the books, okay? It dictates that the Israeli military would rather kill a soldier themselves than let the soldier become a hostage in the hands of Hamas. Okay? That's it. And a similar incident happened on October 7, where the Israeli tanks, the Israeli occupying force, its tanks and its helicopters opened fire on cars that may or may not have had kidnapped Israelis in them. This is basically, we don't know how many people died in the hands of the Israeli Defense Forces on October 7. But we do know, according to Yediot, which is not exactly a liberal outlet at all, it's an Israeli newspaper and certainly not a liberal one. There were the Hannibal Doctrine was in effect in the kibbutz, specifically in Be'eri, and also they suspected it was happening with the helicopters as well, of people that were trying to leave the Nova Festival. This, of course, and I will always obviously ensure that you understand, I will always reaffirm this position or reiterate it. This, of course, does not mean that like Hamas didn't kill civilians on October 7. I'm not saying that at all. As far as I understand, at least according to all of the readily available footage from the day, Hamas is still responsible, the Palestinian militancy is still responsible for the overwhelming majority of civilian deaths on October 7. Okay? It was implemented in a specific case in Kibbutz Be'eri and then announced as de facto military-wide at midnight.
Report from Human Rights Watch. The Israeli government is using starvation of civilians as a method of warfare in the Gaza Strip, which is a war crime. Israeli forces are deliberately blocking the delivery of water, food, and fuel. They remind us that this was not an unfortunate, unintended consequence of war, but a plan which was openly stated ad nauseum by Israeli officials. The Israeli energy minister, the one who oversees the supply of energy into Gaza, stated on October 16th, "I strongly oppose the opening of the blockade and the introduction of goods into Gaza on humanitarian grounds." According to Human Rights Watch, the Israeli army has also been employing bulldozers, in an example that can hardly be called unintentional. Since the beginning of the Israeli military's ground offensive on October 27th, satellite imagery reviewed by Human Rights Watch indicates that orchards, greenhouses, and farmland in northern Gaza have been razed. The razing of agricultural land continued in northern Gaza during the 7-day ceasefire, which began on November 24th and ended on December 1st, when the Israeli military was in direct control of the area. Farmers in this area planted crops such as citrus fruit, potatoes, dragon fruit, and prickly pear, contributing to the livelihoods of Palestinians in Gaza. Other crops include tomatoes, cabbage, and strawberries. Some plots were raised in a day. Trees that yield citrus fruit, as well as the cacti that yield dragon fruit, take years of care to mature before they can yield fruit. High-resolution satellite imagery shows bulldozers were used to destroy fields and orchards. Tracks are visible, as well as mounds of earth on the edges of the former plots. Euromed Monitor gives us further understanding of the sheer desperation of the situation in a recent report on starvation. Comprising a sample of 1,200 people in Gaza, Euromed Monitor concluded that more than 71% of participants reported that they suffer from extreme hunger. 98% say they eat insufficient amounts of food, and 64% admitted they had eaten grass, immature, and expired food.
And I invite Mr. Omri Sender to address the court. You have the floor.
Access to water has also been...
Also remember, like, the American government immediately was like, Russia is doing a genocide in Ukraine. Russia has genocidal intent. There was widespread condemnation of Russia's actions. There were actions taken against Russia, the Russian government, the entire Russian population, whether they have any say in the matter or not. Okay? Immediately. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. And to be fair, Russia's actions were war crimes and certainly, in certain instances, genocidal as well. Just want to point that out. And they did it. America immediately rushed to action. But no such condemnation has come for Israel. Unacceptable. Completely unacceptable.
Been a priority.
According to OCHA, or the UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, on November 4th and 5th, 7 water facilities across the Gaza Strip were directly hit and sustained major damage, including 3 sewage pipelines in Gaza City, 2 water reservoirs in Gaza City, Rafah, and Jabalia refugee camp, and 2 water wells in Rafah. The Gaza municipality warned about the imminent risk of sewage flooding. Indeed, the targeting of water infrastructure prompted Euromed.
How could you say the U.S. hasn't condemned this? Wait, what? Do you think the United States have condemned any of this? Chatter, we're giving them the weapons to do it. Oh, okay, you're joking. All right, Jesus Christ. I thought you were being serious for a second. Okay, I thought for a brief moment there you were saying this seriously. It shocked me to my core. Goddamn.
To describe Israel's campaign as a war of starvation. The Israeli war of starvation has taken very dangerous turns, including cutting off all food supplies to the northern half and bombing and destroying factories, bakeries, food stores, water stations, and tanks throughout the entire enclave. Prior to the ongoing Israeli war, 70% of the Gaza Strip's children suffered from varying health issues, including malnutrition, anemia, and weakened immunity. However, Euromed Monitor said the number has increased to over 90% as a result of the unprecedented Israeli attacks.
COGAT, the unit in the Ministry of Defense in charge of monitoring the humanitarian situation.
COGAT, or the Office of Coordination of Government Activities in the Territories, is the unit in the Ministry of Defense in charge of monitoring the humanitarian situation in Gaza. In his words, here's COGAT's director, Hassan.
This was insane. This is an insane thing. I mean, there's no better depiction of like genocidal intent than having the guy who's supposed to be like tasked with assisting the people that you're genociding put out psychopathic, bloodthirsty, monstrous narratives like this one.
Head of the Coordinator of Government Activities in the Territories explained,
سكان غزة بدل ما يصدمهم الاشي عم بيحتفلوا مع هيك وحوش بشرية رايحين نتعامل كيف لازم راح يكون في عندكم كهرباء ولا مي بس دمار بدكم جهنم راح تحصلوا على جهنم.
And I now invite Mr. Christopher Staker to take the floor. You have the floor, sir.
I next address the 5th requested measure. This specifies types of acts to be regarded as deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about physical destruction. It seeks further impermissible implied rulings on the merits. For instance, it refers to so-called expulsion and forced displacement of Palestinians from their homes. This is an apparent reference to Israel's practice of issuing calls for civilians to temporarily evacuate areas of intense hostilities, which is in fact a measure to mitigate harm to civilians. This measure thus seeks the court's ruling that evacuation calls amount to expulsion and forced displacement of Palestinians from their homes.
Just one small problem, as described by the Criminal Tribunal for Yugoslavia in the appeal judgment for Milomir Stakic. Although displacement for humanitarian reasons is justifiable in certain situations, The appeals chamber agrees with the prosecution that it is not justifiable where the humanitarian crisis that caused the displacement is itself the result of the accused's own unlawful activity. With regard to Bosnian Muslims, the displacement was involuntary, and that, to the extent it had a humanitarian purpose, this was only because of a humanitarian crisis that the appellant himself had deliberately caused.
As the authority responsible for international law advice to Israel's government and cabinet, I can attest that in contending with these challenges, Israel remains committed to international law.
Anyway. Israel will not stop until they're told humanity must draw the line somewhere. Yes. They will not. Unions aren't the only way workers can fight exploitation. Wait, what? This is bait, right? Oh God, I can't wait to watch that. Here, all right, let's look at this. This is a French, Israeli dude. What are you doing? What are you doing over there? All right, please. Not as bad as it sounds, but is a funny title.
Alors on y va, c'est parti. On conduit le tank. Magnifique le tank, c'est magnifique.
Why does the world hate Muslims so much? I don't know. I don't know where to begin. Here is Rabbi Avraham Zerbiv, an Israeli military officer in the Givati Brigade, says they will make Gaza go through a biblical 10 plagues. There will be the 10 plagues in Gaza as there was 10 plagues in Egypt before. It will happen. It happens. And this war we will see. I don't know where to begin. It's just a long story about Islamophobia. I think like it honestly stems from like Europeans feeling like they were owned by the Ottoman Empire. Like it goes all the way back to that period. And also like even Moors. Like, yeah. It's just like there's always been the Christian world has viewed itself as like a supremacist culture and attitude, while simultaneously invoking the Crusades and oftentimes seeing themselves as like the superior forces. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it. It's fucking long and convoluted.
All right, bear with me here. In World of Warcraft, when you create your character, you make two major decisions.
How racism was invented in the Middle Ages by Fred Duh. Nowadays, though, the reality is it's like Islamic countries sit on a lot of natural resources that are beneficial. Countries with like Muslim populations. And America wants to control the flow of said natural resources. I think that's like part of it.
South Africa is accusing Israel of genocide for its war in the Gaza Strip. Genocide is a very serious word, and it actually has a clear legal framework. The term didn't exist before World War II. Because of the brutal attempt to exterminate the Jewish people in the Holocaust, the world came together and created a rule that said genocide is a thing, we need to prevent it. And we've fallen short a few times. Rwanda, Darfur, Bosnia. South Africa will...
So here's how I'm going to tell you why we should fall short of it here with Israel.
Have to prove that Israel is intentionally trying to wipe out this entire population just for being Palestinian. And from my view, is actually the wrong course of action here. It dilutes our ability to use the word genocide in future cases where that is actually happening. I understand that South Africa is trying to call attention to these atrocities.
Wait, what? I love that he's like, yeah, we couldn't prevent it in Rwanda. We've fallen short a few times. We should fall short again for Israel, honestly, is a wild take to have. And like, we won't be able to use it in the future. What do you mean, bro? If you can't fucking use it here, then never use it again. What is a genocide then? Guys, let me tell you, if that's the case, nothing is a genocide, okay? Like, it's only the Holocaust, that's it. No Armenian genocide, base Turkey defender Johnny Harris. Okay. The only genocide that has ever occurred is the Holocaust. Is like a very weird perspective to have when you openly admitted that you failed to prevent, these institutions failed to prevent other genocides from occurring, while you're simultaneously making an argument to fucking say that Israel's not conducting a genocide. What Israel is doing, he also literally did say no genocide existed before World War II in this clip, which is ironic because, you know, Armenian genocide did happen. So that's rather odd that he took that position. A lot of people don't understand this. In order for something to be considered a genocide, at least as far as the genocidal intent goes, you do not need to kill a decent chunk of the population. Okay? I hope you understand this. That is not how this works at all. Okay? And the notion that you have to, like, it doesn't matter how many people you kill. When you're talking about genocidal intent, all you need to show is intent, okay? Israel's also killed a shit ton of Palestinians and deprived Palestinians on the basis of being Palestinian from food and from access to electricity and things like that. And yeah, by the way, the word genocide wasn't coined after the Holocaust. It was coined after the Armenian genocide, which is wild that my man Johnny Harris is denying the Armenian genocide here. What is going on? Okay, how do we get to a position where the liberal Johnny Harris is like kind of engaging in Armenian genocide denial and the Turkish guy is correcting him on it? What is going on in the world? Anyway, for example, the Yazidi genocide, 5,000 killed by ISIS in the Sinjar area of northern Iraq in the mid-2010s. Yeah, you don't have to, for the record, it doesn't have to be like every single person. It doesn't work that way. But remember when I told you that Johnny Harris has to do videos like this after the good video that he did about Israel? He had to do it. I'm telling you, dude. My man can't stop. He has to. Okay?
Israel is arguably violating lots of rules of war. But throwing around the word genocide in this way is going to undermine the term and undermine...
Bro, can you imagine? Dude, you say this about even cultural genocide, right? If something is declared a cultural genocide, okay, like systematic mass surveillance, systematic incarceration, re-education, okay, Xinjiang, great example. If you were to deny that and say, that's not genocide, that's not even cultural genocide, that's nothing, everyone understandably would turn around and go, dog, you're fucking delusional. Okay? You're fucking delusional. You're crazy. How dare you? You're a genocide defender. But he can say that about Palestinians. Like, this is just genocide denial. This is a denial of ethnic cleansing that is currently ongoing. It blows my mind what is permissible and what is not permissible here. Like, it's crazy. He's also done videos on the Native American genocide. Exactly. So he knows better. He knows what the Trail of Tears is. Is the Trail of Tears genocidal? It's kind of funny because the entire point of genocide as a designation is the same as never again, okay? Why do we study the Holocaust? Why do we study genocides? Why are there entire fields dedicated to studying genocides and the Holocaust in particular? Is it for fancy? Is it for funsies? Do you think it's because people are just like really captured by the super violence that existed? Is that what it is? No. Okay? The reason is the same reason behind stating never again. The whole purpose of genocide studies, the whole purpose of studying the Holocaust is so that you prevent it from happening in the future. Yeah, it's too late if you are like, okay, finally we can declare this a genocide once the dust is settled. That's crazy. The entire point of genocide studies and Holocaust studies is specifically so that we can look at the clear telltale signs and markers of an ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign and stop it before it's too late, which Johnny Harris openly admitted we failed to do so in the past.
The real atrocities that are happening in the Gaza Strip. If you want to better understand global politics,
it's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's not even about like brown people in that situation, I think. Like a lot of people look at this under the framework of white supremacy, and white supremacy is a main operating principle here, but it's not, it's a little bit reductive to simply talk about this as white supremacy. I think it's like Western chauvinism, which pairs well with white supremacy. But the thing is, these guys will openly admit when brown people are being genocided, as long as the American State Department recognizes it. You know what I mean? For one reason or the other. It could be beneficial. It could be because they have no hand in it. You know what I mean? Like, but that's it. That's the only time you hear these guys openly state, all right, you know what? I acknowledge it. That's it. Now, the reason why I am talking about this, of course, is because one other component of genocide. What is this?
What about giving me better ranking? Okay, now let's move on. What can I do for you? Do I need to get Hasan to collaborate with you, Miz? Is that what you're saying?
I mean,
should I give him a call? Is that what you're saying?
Listen. If you want to pull that ripcord, I pulled the fuck Hasan ripcord for a while. If you want to pull that one, I'm fine with it. You know, like Dan. Listen, if you can get people to come out here, that would be great.
I do want to go out there and work out at the gym. CIA Hasanabi doing anti-China propaganda again. Can you tell me how there was a cultural genocide in Xinjiang when culture is not being suppressed, at least not anymore? Yes, this is my most contentious perspective. Oh, I am following Adrian Zenz's propaganda. Okay, this is not a simple China bad take. I'm sorry. Okay, I love that you just said not anymore, which is the Associated Press's position as well. Okay, for a period of time, there absolutely were re-education camps and mass surveillance, which still to a certain degree exists in Xinjiang. The Chinese government's attitude towards it was that they deserved it because they have violent separatist groups. While there is a little bit of truth to the violent separatist group narrative, that still does not justify wholesale surveillance of an entire population of people, okay? And it's fucking ridiculous. That's it. That's my point. No, it's not just mass surveillance everywhere either. You don't fucking put like party members inside of houses. Like, I'm not doing the organ theft shit, okay? I'm not extending my argument all the way to like they were doing mass organ thefts and like they were just like they killed everyone and then replaced them with like Han Chinese people to like lie to the population or whatever. But they did certainly neuter they did certainly neuter components of the Uyghur culture and repackaged it for consumption and turned it into like a Disneyland style situation. Okay. Its important context was that there were major terrorist attacks and even the U.S. State Department cooperated in that war on terror shit. China went too far. Even that is acknowledged in China. Yeah, that's it. Okay. I don't give a fuck about what Adrian Zenz is saying. I don't give a fuck about what anyone is saying. This has been my position in perpetuity. Okay. It is very frustrating to me that people act like that is not what happened. Also, this is not like anti-Muslim across the board either. There are plenty. China is relatively diverse. Okay. It spans across a major swath of land with so many diverse cultures. Okay. And here's the thing. There are plenty of other Muslim sects of the population whose like religious religious expression has not been has not been limited in the same way that Uyghurs have been. Okay? So there is that as well. The difference is that the East Turkestan movement was propped up in some ways by Turkey and by ways of oğlum sen hiç Uygurlarla tanışmadın mı? TR'de var bir sürü var. Sana sonra anlatırlar. Senin Uygur soyadı nereden geliyor merak ettim. Tabii ki de abi. Evet. Ben de bunu söylüyorum. Like there are the limits of your leftism is your foreign policy, Sag. Dude, you should inform yourself. Financed by the CIA, Westoid take. Yes, dude, I know. Both the Vosh adjacent, I want to suck every NATO cock dude, and also all of the people that unironically use Westoid have the exact same take. Okay? I am too limited on my foreign policies. I'm both simultaneously far too anti-China and invoke xenophobia all the time, and also sucking Xi Jinping's cock every fucking day. Which one is it? Which one is it? Okay? Which one is it? Or maybe I have a pretty normal, reasonable take. Come on, guys. It's just like depending on where you're coming from, I'm either like lapping up Chinese propaganda and writing Chinese propaganda dick, okay? Or I'm just straight up denying, I'm just like lying about China and just like, you know, repeating fake false narratives or something. I do use Westoid unironically as well. It's just fucking annoying. It's just so stupid. It is perfectly reasonable to criticize China on the same exact boundaries that I would criticize the United States of America, which is what I'm doing when I talk about the East Turkestan separatist movement and China's dealings with the entire Uyghur population. Okay? This does not give America the moral high ground in any way, shape whatsoever. Anyway, do you think it's deflecting or using whataboutism to point kids in cages at the U.S. border and the hysterectomy allegations? Like, that's the wrong way to address the point? No, it is not the wrong way to address the point because America does not have the moral high ground as it pertains to, like, its treatment or mistreatment of Muslims. Come on. Essentially, all leftists are bad at foreign policy takes are rooted in bloodthirst. Yes. I, of course, get way more more aggressively yelled at by like dumbass liberals who fucking falsely smear me and say that like I'm pro-Russia unconditionally, I'm pro-China unconditionally. I've never criticized China. I ride Chinese dick over and over again because they're fucking racist, oftentimes white supremacist, Western chauvinist pieces of shit. That's the only way that they can justify their worldview is by like presenting themselves as at odds with someone that they see as like an ideological enemy. And the best way to present me as an ideological enemy is by lying about my positions. Because if you were being honest about the positions that I espouse, then at that point, you would fucking recognize that my points are normal and valid. What peanut butter allegation? What the fuck do you mean? Yeah, half the time, people that say it's scary how pro-China Hasan is, literally say that, okay? They say that because I'm just not being like, I'm just not telling you that like China is the scariest place on the planet, okay? That's it. And that like Chinese people are just coming to get you or something. Or the Chinese government is like gonna kill you. It's crazy. The racism part is also weird law. Most Turks definitely wouldn't riot for China. The seculars are usually pro-US. They're pretty similar to diaspora Iranians in general. Yani burada bakış açısı soykırım var yönünde. Özellikle milliyetçiler. Ya sevmiyorlar abi. Onlar da sevmiyor. Kimse sevmiyor ki Çin'i. Dünyada hiç nerede kim seviyor Çin'i? Hiç kimse sevmiyor. Bu doğru yani %100. Anyway. Kral sen de liboşlar sentrist diye algı yarat. Ezilenleri yanında değiller. Hep güçlünün yanındalar. Doğru. Yeah. Liberals are centrists. They are permanent centrists. They are fence sitters overall. Anyway. Too comfortable or cowardly to talk to their own racist capitalist friends and family. They have no being outside. Okay, let's continue. Mogul moves. Keep your eyes off my damn state. That's right, dude. Your state's looking kind of nice with it right now. Will they actually elect Nikki Haley or will they not? We're about to find out. Anyway, this part is also important too. China's surveillance is nothing on U.S. and Israel. I mean, yeah, every big state does this shit, but like, let's not act like the Chinese surveillance is not happening. You're a China centrist, but only in this sphere. Everywhere else, you're basically speaking fluent Chinese. I'm a China centrist on what? On saying that they very successfully neutered an entire population and like, and I guess to a certain degree Hanified them for mass consumption, like their culture, their institutions, after, you know, incredible amounts of suppression. I don't think that that is unfair to say, and I certainly don't think that that is a centrist position either. But regardless, the point is this, okay? As far as you know, as far as like talking about other shit, like why the fuck would I yell about, for example, why would I yell about you know, trains being bad or some shit? Like people want me to act like China is any different than any of these other social democracies that I also present as positive. That's the worst part. I present European style social democracies with obvious, you know, exceptions and obvious issues, but I still present them as an overall positive, as a thing that America needs to move towards. But nobody's got smoke when I talk about Norway. Everybody loses their mind if I talk about Chinese economy in a similar capacity. That's the difference. Because you want to know why? Because they're fucking Chinese. That's it. That's the major reason. People can just like add on to it and be like, no, it's mistreatment of Taiwan. It's mistreatment of Hong Kong. It's Xinjiang, all this other shit. But the real reason is because they're not fucking Norwegian white. That's it. They're on a designated foreign adversary list. So when you're a official foreign adversary, it don't matter. This does not mean that the things that they do are appropriate across the board all the time. It's a totalitarian single party state. This might be your dumbest take of all. No, man, you are hyper focused on the fucking aesthetics. That's it. That's it. You are not looking at the economic organization. You are not looking at their form of governance. You're just simply looking at it's a totalitarian single party state, and you're just leaving it at that. America's a fucking one party state, dumbass. Look at the Democratic Party's foreign policy versus the Republican Party. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What good is our duopoly? Every election cycle, we talk about how, well, you know, things keep happening. Things just keep happening. Look at this. Look at this. Schrodinger's POTUS. He needs to be elected as only he can protect our reproductive rights, but he also can't do anything to protect reproductive rights as an elected official. Like, what? You're straight up read the tweet on the page and you will understand, okay? You compared it to Norway? What do you mean? I compared it to Norway as a social democracy. If I look at their economy, it's similar to Norway. Doesn't matter. That's it. You like Norway's social democracy. You like all of these other European social democracies, and it's not because they have a quote-unquote democratic process, okay? Sure, they have an illusion of choice that somehow, I guess, creates real democracy, okay? China is not a democracy, Norway is a stupid take. I'm not talking about their form of governance. America is a democracy. What the fuck are we talking about? America is a democracy on paper. Do you think that the democratic process is actually working? Or do you think it's a democracy in theory and not really in practice? What the fuck's going on? Hold on. What do you want me to say, chat? Yeah. The American government represents the people pretty well, in my opinion. We're just so fractured. Yeah, no, that's cope. That's why the two-party system is this lie, so that it churns out results such as this one. You say this at a time when the Brandon administration came into power for stability and to fix the wrongs of the Trump administration. It simply continued along with the Trump administration's white nativist immigration policy. It simply continued along with the Trump administration's foreign policy. This is circular logic, lol, but go off. No, my point is simple. When I talk about the outcomes, when I talk about like the economic organization, both in China or Norway, okay, I'm not talking about how we arrived there. Okay, I'm not talking about how they got there. Doesn't matter if it was like a fucking supposedly monarch that decided personally to do this out of the kindness of his heart. Okay? When I'm making a comparison between China and Norway, I'm simply talking about the economic organization of their society, of the way that it's designed, not about the process in which they arrived at that. Okay? That's it. That's it. People do this cope, in my opinion. People do this cope, in my opinion, to make themselves feel better about it. It's like, oh, America's imperfect, but we democratically arrived at this. No, I don't believe that. Okay? And yeah, here, this is another great example. Japan is a democracy, but China isn't, according to the American, even though both have been run by one party with some minor exceptions, with a little bit of minor deviations. That's it. Because, hey, the people are electing it. The people are electing it. Okay, well, the people are electing their local representatives that then represent the entire Communist Party. How about that? Anyway, the point is, it's pure Western cope in this situation. What's the point of labeling ourselves a democracy while conditions continue to decline and all of our institutions are completely owned and operated by a ruling class despises the lower class? Democracy is just a word, and without actually examining the system behind the word, it means nothing. Thank you. Okay? You say Japan likes the LDP, China can't choose. Okay, that's a really cool take. Okay, do you like the Democratic Party? Did you vote for it because you vociferously believed that, you know, did you vote for the Democratic Party? It's a matter of like what the options are too, chat. Okay? The reason why I'm bringing this back to America is because it's one that you understand is messed up because you're an American for the most part. The thing that I care about overall, and this is not me dick riding China, okay, because China does have plenty of issues, and I've talked about it already. I was literally talking about it earlier. But what I do care about it is this. The Chinese population, when polled by Western institutions that have no interest in making the Chinese government look good, have found time and time again that the population finds the Chinese government to be infinitely more favorable than the American population finds the American government. Okay? Harvard has specifically conducted polls in China with a genuine interest in probably making the Chinese government look unfavorable. And for some reason, they have an infinitely higher approval rating. And why wouldn't they have an infinitely higher approval rating? Probably the same in the UAE, man. That's not true. The reason why they have an infinitely higher approval rating is not because, like, the Chinese people are docile and servile and easy to brainwash, okay? They surely will answer truthfully, no repercussions to be feared at all. I love you, chatter, but that's just pure racism. You just added the pure racism block in there, okay? That's just pure racist copium, okay? You would not get these numbers because people are simply too scared to answer truthfully. You're just, again, you found information just now, right now, for the first time ever, you found information that contradicts what you think is happening in that part of the world. Instead of going and potentially finding like a Chinese national to have a serious and honest conversation with, you turned around and decided on your own, in the most like white supremacist way possible, that you know better. You can take it one step further and probably find a Chinese national that will tell you the sweet nothings that you want whispered to your ear too. Okay? That's at least a little bit better for you. That way you can like justify your framework by finding someone that fits the bill, that goes against the information presented here. We didn't even get to the actual point that I was trying to make. The reason why they are popular, the reason why the government is fine, the reason why the government's like, the people like what the government is doing, is because the government has given them prosperity. They see it. They see the incredible improvement. Okay? That's it. That's all it is. It's just the material progress. That's it. That plays a massive role. Obviously, this doesn't mean that there isn't indoctrination, for the record. Kaya, come here. What are you doing? Come. Place. Place. Good girl. The fuck was that? She was being crazy. People in China 50 years ago lived worse than the Chinese people live like today. 50 years ago, Americans live better than Americans today, or at least they thought they lived better. Okay? That's it. It's like saying the Gulf citizens, not the slaves they bring from South Asia, hate their monarchies because they are not democratic. Yeah, it totally depends on who you're asking, for sure. Damn it, I've been trying to open this really hard and I can't. You would literally see social and political unrest constantly if China wasn't actually making good moves. Yes. Vietnam is a communist state and they're more favorable than China because the news media goading Vietnam for doing trades with America. That's another part of it. Yes. Anyway. Americans supported the government when we were fucking awful and authoritarian towards massive parts of our population in the 50s because the standards of living were increasing rapidly. It's all about how people's lives are improving. Exactly. This requires taxing more and according to wealth. That's why the American doctrine is against it. The point is this, guys, okay? China is not perfect. They're far from perfect, okay? But the reason why people seemingly like their government and what they're doing is because of Chinese prosperity. The only reason why Chinese prosperity has happened is not because China is authoritarian, I guess. I mean, I guess it's authoritarian if you're like a neoliberal. But the reason why it's happened is because of their socialization. They have a higher degree of socialization. It's a distribution of the revenue that the Chinese government across the board created and the planning that they engaged in. That's it. And I want that in America. Whether it is democratically voted on or not does not matter. That is what I want. Oftentimes, I've also mentioned how I don't care if Americans vote in a policy like a ballot initiative and then they don't follow through on it. I want Gavin Newsom to run this motherfucker like the Chinese government, okay? We voted for it. We vote for tax increases every goddamn election cycle, and then for some reason we can never get public housing. What's that about? Do Chinese-style democracy and then reap the results, okay? Because the results will be infinitely better. So no democracy is cope. They have elections in China too, dummy. The point is, we have elections in America. We vote in, through ballot measures, certain concepts like getting adequate resources or funding certain initiatives like, housing, more affordable housing. But that never comes through. We have billions of dollars in surpluses in the California state right now. Why can't we get high-speed rail and public housing? Well, because there's a lot of people at odds with said reality. They don't like that. So we can't have that. I personally don't care. As long as we vote for it, after we voted on it, on the ballot initiative side, that's it. It's Jover. Make it happen. It is your job to make it happen after that. You don't have to have a million different public meetings where you have like small business fascists and Debras and Karens from all around the goddamn state come in and yell about how homeless people are going to be here if we build, affordable housing, or the neighborhood culture is going to be diminished or whatever. I don't give a fuck. Suck my dick. But in the United States of America, because those people are oftentimes those who own capital, we listen to them even if the actual throwing out a few people's rights, though. Yes, I don't care. Yes. I'm telling you, honest to God. That's how democracy works. I want the tyranny of majority. Americans don't. Americans think that is awful. Hello? Yes, the tyranny of majority is also known as a democracy. That is how things should be. We voted for it, and we don't even get to have it. The fuck is that? That's undemocratic. But because you live in America, you don't see it in the same way. Americans think that any opinion they hold is automatically valid and must be upheld by the virtue of the fact that they're American. Doesn't matter how deranged or detached from reality it may be. You know? Yeah. People literally go, nah, that's the tyranny of majority, dog. That's America, baby. We can't have that. It'd be tyrannical. Guess what? I am tyrannical, okay? I will tyrannically give you health care whether you want it or not. How about that? That's it. I will tyrannically give you health care. I will tyrannically give you public housing. I don't care if you don't want it. I don't care. I don't care if it hurts your bottom line. I will serve you the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour tyrannically. I will rule with an iron fist. And you will get educated. You will be educated on the fact that the 3-minute ad break can be avoided by subscribing for $5 or for free. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
The Israeli military.
How the fuck do we get to talking about China again? Gross. Yeah. Society works thanks to the administrative state. People want a smaller government, know nothing about the world. Yeah. What is this? Yeah, but China has a social credit system that makes it hard to travel, get housing, get loans, avoid Someone thought you were racist because you were trying to bait me with a top of the hour debate.
Acknowledged that they rolled into a cemetery, took bodies out of graves as part of what they say is a search for Israeli hostages' remains. But as the Israeli military put out that statement, we were completing our investigation into the Israeli military's desecration of cemeteries. And what we found is 16 cemeteries across Gaza damaged or destroyed. I do want to warn our viewers that they may find some of these images disturbing.
In Gaza, even the dead cannot escape the indignities of war. More than a dozen cemeteries like this one in Jabalia, desecrated by the Israeli military. Gravestones destroyed, soil upturned, tread marks leaving little left for the living to honor their dead. This is that same graveyard before the war.
You ever plan on covering this? I did. I talked about it the other day.
1 month later, a series of tread marks can be seen on the northwestern edge. It is no exception. A CNN analysis of videos and satellite imagery found that 16 cemeteries have been damaged or destroyed by the Israeli military since it launched its ground offensive. As Israeli forces pushed deeper into Gaza, they crushed the graves of thousands of Palestinians between November and January. Janina Dill, co-director of Oxford University's Institute for Ethics, Law, and Armed Conflict, says destroying graveyards violates international law, except under very limited circumstances.
Cemeteries are not military objectives. They are, in fact, what international law would consider an object that is normally dedicated to civilian purposes, like places of worship generally. So this is protected from intentional attack. It can only be intentionally attacked or destroyed if it becomes a military objective.
In some cases, like this cemetery in the Shujaiya refugee camp, Israeli bulldozers turned cemeteries into military outposts, parking armored vehicles behind freshly raised berms. The damage is often deliberate and progressive. Over 2 weeks into
They aren't just blowing up cemeteries, they're fucking exhuming bodies too. Who knows what they're doing with the bodies after they're exhumed? I have no idea. Like, what purpose? I guess they're saying they're doing it to determine if they're hostages.
The military bulldozed more and more of this cemetery.
Bro, this is literally like, dude. This is like, genocide is so gross because it's, I mean, obviously, but like the American genocide specifically of indigenous population is so gross that we even make jokes about it because it's so far in the past, right? Where like the meme of it is like, oh, this place is built on an Indian burial ground is like the thing that people say sometimes. Except it's not a joke. Like, this is how it happens, and this is how it is justified when it's happening in the time frame that it's happening. And then 100 to 200 years later, we make jokes about it.
Of Khan Yunis, building defensive fortifications. CNN witnessed firsthand the results of Israel's bulldozing of graveyards while embedded with Israeli forces last week. The armored personnel carrier CNN was traveling in drove right through this cemetery in Al Burej on a freshly bulldozed dirt road. And then there's this. Tombs opened at a cemetery in Khan Yunis this week, bodies removed from their graves. In a statement, the Israeli military acknowledged exhuming bodies from the cemetery as part of its search for the bodies of Israeli hostages. An IDF spokesman could not account for the damage to the 16 cemeteries identified by CNN, but said that in some cases there is no other choice, providing this photo of what it says is a Hamas rocket launcher.
Oh, dude, of course. Of course. Bro, there's no other choice, brother. Dude, it's crazy. Always and forever. Always and forever, baby. Oh, dude, do we have to blow this up? Dude, well, guess what? Hamas.
At a cemetery in Gaza. CNN could not independently verify.
Yeah, I can't wait for the, oh yeah, notice CNN doesn't have footage of the tanks going over the graves. IDF stopped that from getting out 100%. Yeah. Remember, everybody, the IDF actually vets all the footage that they're allowed to post. So just remember that this was like okayed. At least the footage part was okayed by the IDF. Here's the Intercept reporting on it. CNN runs Gaza coverage past Jerusalem team operating under the shadow of IDF censor.
By where it was taken.
CNN has openly admitted that they have agreed to the IDF censoring their footage, by the way.
Spokesman could not account for the military posts over graveyards, but said we have a serious...
I cannot believe that someone in the chat just said, oh, well, CNN could not independently verify it, but they posted it without evidence, without verification anyway. Yeah, the fact that they even mentioned that CNN could not independently verify this is a change of pace. You understand that? That is crazy to me. That is the bare minimum expectation that we have at this point. And the fact that they still said it, at least, instead of just reporting it as is, whether it be the fucking decapitated baby story or whatever the fuck, I almost called Joe Biden Donald Trump. Joe Biden was going along with. I'm glad that it's like, if I'm going to look for a silver lining here, this is a tone shift.
This obligation to the respect of the dead, and there is no policy to create military posts out of graveyards. In at least one case, the Israeli military appears to have taken pains to maneuver around a graveyard. The Deir el-Balah War Cemetery, which holds the remains of many Christian and Jewish soldiers from World War I, left intact, despite devastation all around.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. Wow, that's so strange. So they do have a way to maneuver around the cemeteries. Wow. Yeah, this definitely makes it seem like they are deliberately doing it to the other cemeteries.
At the Al-Tufa Cemetery, a very different picture. Residents say bodies were uprooted by Israeli.
Just want to point something out here, by the way. If you want to understand, when I talk about harm reduction, and I mean this in all sincerity, October 7 included, okay, when you look at Israel's actions versus the actions of Hamas, you arrive at things like this. This cemetery that has Jewish dead veterans under Hamas control, never desecrated. Very different than the way that the Palestinian cemeteries have been treated under Jewish control, under Israeli control now. Very interesting. There are Jewish and Christian people that died in World War I in that cemetery. Why did they not look at these graves as well to see if there were maybe some Israeli hostages in there? Yeah. Not just undamaged, but taken care of. Exactly. It's the same shit behind. Maybe because the IDF didn't think that there would be Israeli hostages in there since it's from World War I. Brother, do you really think that the IDF thinks that there's really Israeli hostages in the Palestinian cemeteries? Or do you think they're doing that specifically because they want to flex? Like, how do you still lap up this propaganda? How many Palestinians need to be fucking massacred ruthlessly for you to go, yeah, maybe their goal isn't actually, I don't know, saving the fucking Israeli kidnapped victims, okay? You gotta be probably, I was just saying, bro, I'm on your side, damn. Well, it's ridiculous, dude. It's a ridiculous thing to say. No, you're failing to see the actual point. They're doing this as a flex.
At the Al-Tufa Cemetery, a very different picture. Residents say bodies were uprooted by Israeli bulldozers.
We're currently retrieving the corpses of the martyrs that are present in the cemetery. The occupation forces have run over most of them with their bulldozers, and we've only identified a small number of corpses and martyrs. As for the rest, their identities remain unknown.
South Africa cited Israel's destruction of cemeteries as part of its case, arguing Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Israel denies the allegation, but experts say cemetery destruction could be evidence of Israel's intent.
There's huge symbolic meaning to the notion that not even the dead are left in peace. It suggests that disrespect towards the kind of spiritual life of your enemy, their cultural property and heritage. It's an evidence of an animus against your enemy that is unhelpful in this context.
The Israeli military is still desecrating At the Han Yunis cemetery where the military dug up bodies this week, the damage is extensive and all too familiar. Tombs destroyed, shrouded bodies sticking out of the soil, the dead roused from their final rest.
And the Israeli military pointed to Hamas using some of these cemeteries for military purposes to justify what we've documented here. But
yeah, that's it, bro. It's just Hamas, bro. You don't understand. Hamas. They're in the cemeteries, bro. I don't know, man. Is there anyone in the chat that still defends Israel? Like, I don't know. I feel like everyone left by this point. They've already been taking like victory laps about how anti-Semitic they perceive I am for openly covering this shit. But like, if there is one who's like at least a little bit, I don't know, in the margins or something, like, how do you see something like this and continue going, nah? Israelis don't see it. That's true. But I was talking about the Hasbara Malders in here. You know what I mean? Also ironic to say Israelis don't see it when you yourself are Israeli. I mean, look, Tal is Israeli. There's a growing movement, I think, of Israeli leftists who are anti-apartheid, who are doing activism on the streets. I want to hear from the people that still defend Israel's actions, though. I mean, our media shows the IDF in a good light. That's the part I don't understand. Like, it's got to be received in a positive way, I suspect. When you know, all the TikToks come out, right? Like, it's got to be received in a positive way when like the TikToks come out of like, you know, IDF dudes just like fucking joyfully and in glee celebrating like blowing up another hospital or some shit. Some people freak out when you mention Israeli leftists. No, people like to make jokes about how fucking right-wing Israel is, so they understandably are frustrated. I mean, yeah, there's another thing that I didn't even cover, but the stealing of Palestinian antiquities. Eli Escocido, the director of the Israeli Antiquities Authority, shares a video documenting the theft of archaeological artifacts from Gaza, which they took to the Knesset, by the way. Bro, this is just rape and pillage. Cultural heritage sites in Gaza have been deliberately targeted, and in the West Bank, Israeli occupation army and settlers systematically raiding archaeological sites. Yeah, they've been looting. They haven't stopped looting. They like break. There are videos of Israeli occupying forces in Gaza, like seizing millions of dollars in cash, shekels, millions of shekels. Like, what are we doing? Are you serious? You can't do that. That's just, you're openly showing to the world that you're stealing this shit. Anyway. Here, this is the one, yeah. The Israeli army announces the seizure of 20 million shekels from the Gaza Strip since the outbreak of the aggression and the transfer of this money to treasuries of the Israeli state. Isn't stealing pretty common in conflict, though? Yeah, it's fucking gross and unacceptable. What do you mean? You think I find it fine when America does it? No. I have criticized America just as much, if not more. I have the same exact smoke. After all, I am Mr. America Deserved 9/11, for those of you who do not know. So nobody can get me on that either, which is precisely the reason why they just stopped trying to catch the hypocrisy in the situation, okay? And now have just decided that they themselves are just pro-America too. New U.S. Britain strike struck missile systems and launchers, air defense systems, radars, and deeply buried weapons storage facilities per CENTCOM. Our aim remains to de-escalate tensions and restore stability in the Red Sea. But let us reiterate our warning to Houthi leadership per the statement. We will not hesitate to defend the lives and free flow of commerce in one of the world's most critical waterways. Nice. America is still engaging in what is known as a de-escalatory act of certainly non-vindictive, de-escalatory act of bombing. Oh, speaking of, U.S. personnel being evacuated for possible traumatic brain injury after Iran-backed militant attack. Apparently, Iran-backed militants are just like bombing American positions in Syria and in Iraq and bases and stuff relentlessly. And we don't really get a lot of coverage on it, but like some of them are deadly, it seems.
Now, the latest attack on U.S. forces in the Middle East by Iran-backed militants. According to the Pentagon, several American personnel are being evaluated for possible traumatic brain injuries after a missile barrage against a base in Iraq. Our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, is tracking that for us. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Robin. Well, this is exactly the kind of escalatory strike by Iran-backed militants that the White House has been trying to avoid, a barrage of ballistic missiles and rockets targeting U.S. forces in Iraq. Now, the Pentagon says that this attack was largely intercepted by air defense systems, but this morning we know that several U.S. service members are now being evaluated for possible traumatic brain injuries, and at least one Iraqi service member was wounded. Now, this is perhaps the largest of the roughly 140 attacks on U.S. service members in Iraq and Syria since mid-October. These relentless attacks by Iran-backed proxies that claim to be in protest for U.S.'s support of Israel and their war with Hamas. Now, all of this, of course, is creating an increasingly volatile situation. We have seen this tit-for-tat of attacks and counterattacks that risk spiraling into a wider war. Now, the Biden administration is trying to contain this while also fighting back to protect U.S. forces in the region and, of course, to protect those vital shipping routes that continue to.
Oh, damn. I didn't realize the Biden administration was trying to contain this. Dude, that's crazy. Thank God. Thank God News Lady told me. Thank God Good Morning America, ABC News's White House chief correspondent was able to tell me what to think here. You know, otherwise I would have thought, one, why the fuck do we still have soldiers in Iraq? Two, it seems weird that we're bombing Yemen harder. That seems like an escalation of hostilities and maybe even the opening of a new front. But thank God the chief correspondent for the White House told me, no, guys, it's a de-escalatory attack and they're trying to contain it.
Come under attack by Houthi rebels based in Yemen. Now, so far, we have seen the U.S.'s efforts to retaliate. These retaliatory strikes haven't been enough to stop all of this, and the White House, it seems, is bracing for this to go on for some time. One top official here saying deterrence is not a light switch. Lindsay.
Yeah, a lot of concern about this potentially spreading. Mary Bruce from the White House. Thanks so much, Mary.
Hi, everyone.
Deterrence is not a light switch. Okay, the last two chicken pieces were $7.70. This is also $7.6. Okay, we got 14 ounces of chicken today. 15 ounces. So many online political commentators never cared about foreign policy, Russian and geopolitics after the Ukraine invasion. They confidently regurgitate articles authored by literal consultants to ex-employees of the CIA, State Department,